After the wealthy family's little princess fainted, she discovered she could hear everyone's thoughts. She looked at her beloved, who was trembling as he cried, but heard his complaint in her mind. Pretending to cry is exhausting. Why hasn't Wanwan come to comfort me? If this were before, seeing me like this, she'd already be heartbroken for me. In the 5 years I was abroad, did she really fall for Chen? I have to make her divorce Chen immediately. The Lin family's son-in-law can only be me. I will become the most powerful man in the city. Lin Wanwan's pupils shrank in shock. She couldn't believe these were Zhou Zimo's thoughts. In the more than 10 years she'd known him, he had always seemed indifferent to fame and fortune. She never expected his heart to be so calculating. Mind reading was simply too absurd. It had to be a hallucination from her head injury. But then, another voice rang out. Even if Wanwan registered her marriage with Chen, I'm still the one in her heart. All my efforts these years weren't wasted. I cannot lose my composure now. As long as I'm back, no matter what I ask for, my little Wanwan will be completely obedient to me. Her wealth, status, and identity. Everything she has will be mine. Lin Wanwan squeezed her eyes shut. Zhou Zimo's greedy thoughts rang clearly in her ears. She could no longer deceive herself. It felt as though the blood in her body had turned to ice. The man she'd loved for years had been plotting against her all along. Lin Wanwan opened her eyes in fury, her icy gaze fixed on Zhou Zimo. That unfamiliar look made Zhou Zimo recoil. A flicker of panic rose within him. He took her arm and asked softly, "What's wrong with you?" Lin Wanwan ignored him. Zhou Zimo's unease grew stronger. Just as he was about to press her further, the doctor spoke up at the right moment. The patient needs quiet right now. Her family needs to be more mindful. No sooner had the doctor finished speaking than when Xiuzhen yanked Zhou Zimo's hand away, she shoved him aside with open disgust. Zhou Zimo suppressed his displeasure and said gently, "NGÓN, I want to stay and look after Wanwan." At that moment, I stepped forward calmly. I looked at him and asked coldly, "What right do you have to stay and care for her? I am Lin Wanwan's rightful husband. Caring for my wife is my responsibility. And what are you but an outsider?" I had decided to divorce her and leave all this mess behind. But before the paperwork was finalized, I had to vent the resentment from my previous life. Zhou Zimo bit his lip miserably. He turned to Lin Wanwan with a pitiful look. From what I remembered, whenever Zhou Zimo played the victim, Lin Wanwan never let anyone who bullied him off easy. But this time, Lin Wanwan remained expressionless. She didn't even spare him a glance. Zhou Zimo nervously clenched the hem of his clothes. Tears shimmered in his eyes. "Wanwan." At last, Lin Wanwan spoke her first words since waking. "I need some quiet to rest. All of you, leave." She completely ignored Zhou Zimo's helpless act. She even dismissed everyone without mercy. Zhou Zimo's face went pale at once. He couldn't understand why Lin Wanwan had become so cold. Before boarding, he could still hear her anticipation, but this was clearly not the time to get to the bottom of it. Zhou Zimo wiped away his tears and forced a bitter smile. His eyes held a trace of sorrow. "Then rest well and focus on recovering. I'll come see you tomorrow." But inwardly, he was plotting viciously. It must have been while I was abroad. That scheming Chen had seized the opportunity to take my place. I knew all along he was no good. He followed Wanwan around like a lost puppy all day. He's utterly revolting. Only I can be my little Wanwan's husband. Only by marrying into the Lin family can I finally erase my ordinary background. Lin Wanwan could no longer bear his scheming thoughts. Clenching her teeth, she growled through her rage. "Get out, all of you." Zhou Zimo sniffled miserably. He could only rise silently and leave the room. His retreating figure looked especially forlorn and desolate. When Xiuzhen tucked in Lin Wanwan's blanket and said softly, "Rest in bed, your father, and I will be right outside. Call us if you need anything." Lin Wanwan nodded tiredly and closed her eyes. I couldn't have been happier to slip away. But just as I turned away, Lin Wanwan suddenly opened her eyes from the hospital bed. "You stay?" I lowered my eyes with a mocking smile. Then I slowly walked to her bedside. Soon, only Lin Wanwan and I remained in the room. With those noisy, calculating thoughts gone, Lin Wanwan's taut nerves finally relaxed. But the moment she relaxed, a piercing pain tore through her entire body. I looked at her calmly and asked, "Are you in pain?" Lin Wanwan bit her lip and said nothing. I raised a brow and sat in the chair beside her bed. "If anything feels unusual, you'd better not hide it from the doctor." Lin Wanwan studied me with sharp eyes. A faint smile rested on my lips, but I said nothing. Still, I silently thought, we were married for 3 years, after all. How can I not see through your little thoughts? Lin Wanwan frowned slightly, utterly confused. Married for 3 years? Was he talking about us? But we'd only had our wedding yesterday. "Would you like some water?" Lin Wanwan gave the slightest nod. I stood and walked to the water dispenser. As water trickled into the cup, I drifted into thought. I'd finally done it. I could face Lin Wanwan with a calm heart. Did that mean I could finally let her go? Could I cast off the shackles of the past and embrace a brand new life? Thinking it over calmly, Who in this world truly can't go on without someone? No love lasts forever. It was time for me to move forward too. I could not carry my obsession with Lin Wanwan into the hard-won new life I had been given. I reached over and switched off the dispenser. Taking the cup and a cotton swab, I returned to her bedside. Your condition is unusual, so you can't drink much water. I'll wet your lips with a damp cotton swab. She watched me quietly. Though she found my thoughts strange, she could genuinely feel that I had once loved her deeply. It completely overturned everything she believed. She had always believed I married her because the Mu family had fallen on hard times, and I wanted to climb higher through the Lin family's power. She never believed I had even a trace of genuine affection for her. Thinking of my status-chasing parents, a trace of aversion flashed in her eyes. She believed a family like that could raise no decent person, but reality had dealt her a brutal slap in the face. The man she had always trusted to love her was secretly full of schemes and calculations, and the man she guarded against as deeply calculating had once loved her with all his heart. How ironic. I set the cup on the bedside table and sat down. After a while, I truly did not want to face her anymore. I'll hire a caregiver to look after you. Lin Wanwan's face darkened instantly. No, I'm not used to having strangers take care of me. I widened my eyes in astonishment. I seriously wondered whether she'd hit her head and lost her mind. After a long silence, I sat back down. I've already discussed it with Aunt Wen. I'll take care of you until you're discharged. Once you're discharged, we'll file for divorce. After calmly saying the word divorce, my tense shoulders relaxed at once. I felt lighter than I ever had before. It was as though every shadow from my past life had vanished. Lin Wanwan remained completely expressionless. The word divorce stirred no emotion in her at all. I lowered my head and stared silently at the hospital floor. A mocking smile flashed through my eyes. I really had been pitifully foolish. In my past life, I foolishly believed that sincerity and unwavering devotion could change her, but she was cold and heartless to the bone. The little love she was willing to dole out was pitifully scarce. She had given every bit of it to Zimo. How could she have any affection left for anyone else? Memories of my past life. Lin Wanwan gradually realized something unbelievable. It seemed I had lived through a future no one else had experienced. It was completely beyond her understanding. Before this, she would have dismissed it with contempt. But after experiencing it herself, she no longer thought it impossible. She stared at me without blinking. We only held our wedding yesterday, and now you can't wait to get divorced. Have you thought about the consequences of what people will say? I lowered my head and did not meet her gaze. I missed the complicated emotions that briefly crossed her face. We can keep it hidden for now, but nothing stays secret forever. What did she mean by that? I had been the one to suggest ending our marriage. Shouldn't she have jumped at the chance? After all, she hated being forced to do anything. Being forced to marry me had disgusted her, and that had made her reject me even more. I closed my eyes and drew a deep breath. I tried to drive the awful memories from my mind. I raised my head and asked in confusion, "Don't you want a divorce right away?" Lin Wanwan awkwardly avoided my gaze. "It isn't that I don't want a divorce. It's just not appropriate with everything in the spotlight right now. It would cause trouble for my work and my personal life." I nodded in understanding. "All right. I understand your concerns." Lin Wanwan frowned in confusion. What exactly did he understand? She desperately wanted to know what I was thinking, but my heart was completely calm, without a ripple. Naturally, she could not find the answers she wanted. "Get some more sleep while you can. When you wake up, I'll get you something to eat." I stood up. Lin Wanwan hurriedly asked, "Where are you going? Will I disturb your rest if I stay here?" I stared at her in astonishment. Lin Wanwan gave a light cough and turned her head away. "You aren't disturbing me, if I wasn't mistaken." She seemed embarrassed. It was rather strange. Lin Wanwan's expression changed as she looked at me. She suddenly startled me. I tilted my head in confusion. "What's wrong?" She pressed her lips tightly together and said nothing. I calmly sat down and looked at my phone. Lin Wanwan was badly weakened by her injuries. She soon fell asleep. The faint smile on her face left me feeling deeply unsettled. I got up and went to the restroom. When I came out, I saw Zimo standing by the wall. I wasn't surprised to see him. Zimo spoke first. "Did you complain about me to Wanwan?" Whenever Zimo faced me, he never looked me straight in the eye. He acted as if he were always superior. His eyes always held a hint of contempt. Lin Wanwan's support gave him that confidence. I tossed my hair and said with a smile, "Why don't you guess?" Zimo began to lose control of his emotions. "Chen, you need to understand the situation. I don't want to put this too harshly. Wanwan and I have been childhood sweethearts. If Grandpa Lin hadn't stopped us, refusing to cancel our engagement, we would probably have married long ago." I looked straight into his angry eyes. With a cheerful smile, I said, "So what? What if you grew up together? I'm the one who married her. No amount of jealousy will change that. All you can do is watch us love each other. In a way, Apart from Zimo himself, I understood him better than anyone. I knew exactly how to hurt him. Sure enough, his breathing immediately quickened. Chen, how dare you say that? Do you really think Wanwan will stay with you? You have no self-awareness at all. Wanwan hates you. Are you truly stupid? Or are you pretending? Of course I knew that. I had understood it all long ago. When Wanwan and I first met, we were both still children. I thought she was unbelievably beautiful. I wanted to go over and get close to her, but her presence was cold and distant. She radiated a clear warning to stay away. I never dared approach her. We never saw each other again after that. Not until the year I finished my middle school entrance exams. Grandpa Lin invited me to the Lin family home. I learned that she was my fiancée. As my heart first awakened to love, I fell for her. I also knew she didn't like me. In fact, she was deeply disgusted by me. When Zimo saw that I said nothing, he felt much more at ease. A victorious smile spread across his face. Wanwan is ruthless toward people she dislikes. I'm only saying this for your own good. You should get divorced as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll suffer later. Although he wanted us to divorce, he wasn't wrong. I restrained myself from nodding and said disdainfully, "Don't take yourself too seriously. In the 5 years since you left the country in a fit of anger, people have changed. Just now, in the hospital room, you must have felt how cold she was toward you. You must be panicking by now." The moment I finished speaking, Zimo's face turned pale. How could he not be panicking? Wanwan had never treated him so coldly. I saw it all and sneered. No relationship is unbreakable. I spent 5 years working at it. Where did you get the confidence to think she couldn't live without you and would always hate me? Zimo opened his mouth to argue, but couldn't say a word. Seeing how miserable he was, I considered my goal accomplished. I turned to leave. Wanwan has loved me for many years. She'll definitely love me forever. I stopped and glanced back. Then I'll wait and see how long that confidence lasts. I'll make Wanwan leave you. Zimo clenched his fist. His face darkened. I let out a cold laugh. Then I strode away without looking back. When I reached Wanwan's hospital room, I did not hurry inside. I remembered how Zimo had once targeted me. He had joined forces with Wanwan to torment me, driving me into deep despair, and making me endure tremendous suffering. I had endured every kind of hardship. Now that I had been given another chance, I couldn't simply let them off. But how should I strike back? Confronting them directly would not be wise. I did not want these two people to ruin my life again. Heaven had given me a second chance, not to make me repeat my old mistakes. I could make them lose everything they had and repay them in kind, sending them straight to rock bottom, but leaving aside whether I was capable of it. Even if I were, I would spend the rest of my life living only for revenge. Besides revenge, there was another option. I could destroy their relationship. But whenever I imagined the process, it felt utterly suffocating. Pretending every day in front of people I hated would be a terrible torment. After turning it over in my mind, I decided it was better to bury my resentment. I should cherish this second chance and begin a completely new life. Living comfortably for the rest of my life would be better. I convinced myself once more. Then I entered the room without expression. Wanwan was asleep. I went to the restroom to freshen up. Then I lay down on the family cot. I prepared to get some proper sleep. I had been busy all day and barely rested. I slept unusually deeply. When I woke again, it was completely dark outside. I picked up my phone and glanced at it. I opened my mouth in shock. It was already 5 in the morning. "Did you rest well?" A woman's gentle voice sounded beside me. I looked up at her. "Not bad." Wanwan said nothing more. The room fell quiet again. "Are you hungry?" "I'm a little hungry." We spoke almost at the same time. After that, we fell silent again. A flicker of irritation crossed my face. I threw back the covers and got out of bed. "I'll get you something to eat. You can only have some porridge right now. And don't be picky when I bring it back." I had to make that clear in advance. Otherwise, when I brought back the porridge, Wanwan would give me that look again. There was no need for that. Wanwan gave a faint nod. I knew that already. I put on my shoes and headed for the door. I opened it and stepped outside. Zhu was standing by the window. A smile rose to my face without my realizing it. "Assistant Zhu, you're here." Zhu visibly froze. Then she lowered her head, slightly embarrassed. "Hello, sir." Then I suddenly remembered. Zhu did not know me yet. My smile slowly faded. A trace of regret stirred in my heart. Zhu was Wanwan's assistant. After I married Wanwan in my previous life, I gradually became familiar with her. Zhu was kind and sympathized with me. She often looked out for me. I was deeply grateful to her. I had always wanted a chance to thank her. But now that I had started over, I probably would not get the chance to be her friend. I could only bury that gratitude in my heart. I bent my arm and pointed toward the room. "Wanwan is hungry." Zhu nodded gently. "I'll get the porridge right away." After Zhu turned and left, I casually checked my phone. I saw a message from Xubai. "How is Wanwan doing now?" "Brother Chen, Are you alright? Xubai was my longtime best friend. Now that I had been given another chance, I had kept myself from contacting him. I was afraid that once I did, my emotions would completely fall apart. Someone on the verge of breaking down, when faced with a trusted friend, would let down every defense and become incredibly vulnerable in an instant, just like I was now. My nose stung uncontrollably. I took a deep breath. My fingers quickly flew over the keyboard. Wanwan is fine now. I'm doing well too. You don't need to worry about me. We'll talk when I get to school tomorrow. You're actually going to school. You finally come to your senses. I could feel his excitement even through the screen. I smiled faintly. I did not reply again. I was a medical student in college. If not for marrying Wanwan and dropping out at Xiuzhen's demand, I would have become a doctor. Perhaps my life would not have been extraordinary, but it would have been full and worthwhile. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. I leaned against the cold wall, lost in thought. When Zhu returned, she saw me staring blankly. She truly did not want to disturb me, but she feared Wanwan was hungry and growing impatient, so she still came over. Mr. Mu, I've brought the porridge. I immediately came back to myself. I took the insulated food container from her. With a faint smile, I asked, was this sent from home? Madam made this porridge herself. It had been kept at the nurse's station. She said to bring it over once Miss woke up. Zhu spoke respectfully. She truly regarded me as Wanwan's husband. Thinking back to my time with the Lin family, the only one who truly respected me, who treated me like a normal person, was Zhu. Holding the insulated container, I did not rush back into the room. Instead, I looked at Zhu and asked with concern, what time did you get here? A little after 7 last night. I came over after handling some matters. I'll take care of things here. Go get some proper sleep. Faced with my sudden concern, Zhu frowned slightly. She was clearly a little uncomfortable, but she still answered respectfully. Thank you for your kindness, sir. The old madam told me to stay here. I cannot rest yet. I noticed her expression. I realized I was putting pressure on her, so I nodded helplessly. All right, then. I'll go inside first. With that, I turned and entered the room. The hospital room door did not block sound well. From inside the room, Wanwan could hear our conversation at the door. I pushed open the door and walked in. Wanwan's expression shifted slightly as she looked at me. I did not notice it then. I walked over and set the container on the bedside table. I opened it and poured the porridge into a bowl. Then I settled into a chair. I prepared to feed Wanwan some porridge. I held the spoon to Wanwan's lips, but she kept her mouth tightly shut. My eyes filled with confusion. You don't want it. Did you know Zhu before? Wanwan's gaze flickered. I lightly pressed my lips together. Then I answered naturally. We don't know each other. Wanwan narrowed her sharp eyes. She looked like a storm was about to break. That expression on her face was painfully familiar to me. I put the spoon back in the bowl. Then I asked flatly, what did she do that displeased you? I'm really tired of catering to you. Wanwan parted her lips slightly, then shut them tightly again. She knew that if she said it aloud, I would put down the bowl and leave, without even looking back. Before figuring out what was going on, she did not want me out of her control. Are you going to eat or not? Seeing Wanwan remain silent, I gradually lost patience. Wanwan had never heard anyone speak to her that way. Her face immediately turned extremely grim, but she drew a deep breath and continued eating. She really was starving. One bowl only took the edge off. Seeing that she seemed to want more, I set down the bowl. I said evenly, you cannot eat too much yet. Wanwan was not a child, after all, since I had made myself clear. Even if she was not full, that was all she could have for now. I packed up the food container. Then I carried it out of the room. I handed it to Zhu. When I returned, I saw it was nearly 6. I slowly walked back to the bedside. I tucked Wanwan's blanket tightly around her. Then I told her seriously, I'm going to school. Wanwan lifted an eyebrow slightly. So, a caregiver will look after you during the day. Will you come back after school? I nodded gently. I had promised Xiuzhen I would care for her until her discharge. I would keep my word. I would not abandon her halfway through. Go. Wanwan closed her eyes. I needed to change before going to school. Before the wedding, I had been full of joy. I had moved all my belongings into our new home. So no matter how unwilling I was now, or how little I wanted to return to that painful place, I had no choice but to force myself to go back. I took a taxi straight home. When I walked in, Xiuzhen was there. I raised my brows in surprise. Mom, have you been here this whole time? I knew you'd come here after leaving the hospital. I wanted to have a proper talk with you. There was still plenty of time. I was not in a rush to get to school, so I went over and sat down without hesitation. Xiuzhen asked with a displeased expression. You really mean to divorce Wanwan? Have you lost your mind? Xiuzhen slammed down her teacup. Her face was clouded with anger. Do you have any idea how lucky you are to marry her? I gave a bitter smile and replied, if I had not fallen for Lin Wanwan, perhaps that would have been my real good fortune. Chu Huilin froze at once. I finally understand what you meant. You always told me not to fall in love with Lin Wanwan. In your eyes, as long as I did not give her my heart and simply married her, I could live happily and securely for the rest of my life. I reached out and took Chu Huilin's hand. Your ultimate goal was to do what was best for me. You wanted me to want for nothing all my life. Mom, I am right, aren't I? Chu Huilin's expression stiffened slightly. You're overthinking it, child. The moment she said it, she looked uncomfortable. She pulled her hand forcefully from mine. I was not upset. Instead, amusement glimmered in my eyes. I put on a very serious face and said, even if she refuses to give me money in the future and joins Zimo in humiliating me, or even tries to force our divorce, doing everything she can to ruin my reputation, I will just endure all of it. How dare they do that? Chu Huilin's eyes widened in shock. She was instantly furious. Our Mu family may not be what it once was, but our family still has a solid legacy. Besides, our families have been close for generations. What gives her the right to treat you this way? I let out a cold, mocking laugh. But Zimo is the only one she loves. When a woman acts for the man she loves, she can sometimes stop at nothing. Love is nothing but an illusion. A woman's love is the most useless thing there is. Chu Huilin let out the faintest sigh. Hesitation showed in her eyes as she asked, will all that really happen? I nodded with certainty. Lin Wanwan has always disliked me. Now she has been forced to marry me to honor a last wish. She probably hates me to the core by now. If that is the case, Chu Huilin lowered her head and considered it for a moment. Then she continued, if you are determined to divorce her, then as your mother, I will not stop you. But you need to think this through. If you hope to marry another woman as qualified as her, I am afraid that will be impossible. Marrying someone well off does not guarantee happiness. Besides, even if I stay single for the rest of my life, I can still live happily. I said it with a broad smile. Stop talking such nonsense. If you do not marry, your father and I, forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Chu Huilin was an exceptionally strong-willed woman. I only understood that after my rebirth. All the hardships she suffered in her youth had turned her into someone bristling with thorns. No matter what, she refused to soften. She feared that if she yielded even a little, hardship would come knocking at her door again and strike her another crushing blow, leaving her in unbearable pain. When Mu Liheng married her, I was barely a year old. No matter how many nannies a family hires, none can replace a mother. It is a child's nature to depend on their mother. When they cannot find her, they cannot stop crying. But an elderly housekeeper told me that I hardly ever cried as a child. That made me sense something was off. After pressing for answers, I finally learned that before I could remember, Chu Huilin was home with me almost every day. She cared for me most of the time. Anyone could see how dearly she loved me. But for some unknown reason, one day, she began to distance herself from me with hostility. What exactly had happened that made her so heartlessly choose this path? To this day, no one could explain why. Later, when I was 4 years old, she gave Mu Liheng a daughter. That was my younger sister, Mu Xiaobei. She was not close even to her own flesh and blood. At first, I thought she was naturally cold-hearted. Later, I thought she only cared about status and wealth. But thinking it over carefully now, if status and wealth were all she cared about, then when the Mu family's investments failed completely and we nearly went bankrupt, why would she have stayed? She never even voiced a single complaint. I may not understand why she is this way, but I know this family is in her heart. She is Xiaobei and me. That is enough. Even Xiaobei sees it more clearly than you do. I could not help laughing softly. My laughter was bright and clear. She said I would not be happy if I married Lin Wanwan. Surprise crossed Chu Huilin's face. When did she say that to you? 2 days before my wedding. What does a little brat know? Chu Huilin scoffed dismissively. She is so young, yet always worrying about grown-up matters. She clearly needs stricter discipline at home. I merely stood beside her with a faint smile. It really was getting late, so I rose from the sofa. I reached over and kneaded her stiff shoulders. Another day, I will take you to a good hospital. We will get that frozen shoulder of yours properly treated. I will go upstairs and take a shower first. Then it will be time to go to school. Are you going back to class? Chu Huilin's expression shifted slightly. Are you not planning to withdraw from school? I smiled and shook my head. If I were not planning to divorce her, I would never have considered withdrawing. Chu Huilin's face instantly turned cold. She seemed to grasp the reason. What exactly do you mean by that? When Xiuzhen forced me to withdraw, remembering the pressure when Xiuzhen had put on me, my face darkened as well. The moment Chu Huilin heard that, she exploded. Her cheeks flushed crimson with rage. She pointed straight at my face and scolded me. You useless fool. How could you keep something this serious from me? I thought you did not want to study anymore. If you had told me sooner, I would have gone to the Lin family and demanded answers. What gives Wen Xiuzhen the right to be so overbearing? Even after saying that, her anger had not subsided. She grabbed her coffee cup and hurled it at the television. The television's liquid crystal display could not withstand the blow. It instantly cracked into a spiderweb pattern. The coffee cup shattered into pieces as well. Aunt Chen happened to emerge from the kitchen. The sight left her frozen in place. Chu Whelan glanced at her from the corner of her eye. Then she gave several cold laughs. There is not one decent person in the Lin family. It is better that you divorce her sooner rather than later. With your soft, easily bullied nature, you will suffer badly if this marriage continues. Aunt Chen had been the Lin family's housekeeper for years. When Xiuzhen had specifically sent her here, her explanation sounded perfectly reasonable on the surface. She said Aunt Chen was meticulous and attentive, that she could handle our everyday needs. But in truth, she had been sent to watch us. Every angry word Chu Whelan had said just now, Aunt Chen would surely repeat word for word. To that when Xiuzhen. Chu Whelan knew that perfectly well. She had clearly said it all on purpose. This was all my fault. I clasped my hands tightly before me. I lowered my head and put on a remorseful look, just like I did whenever I was in trouble as a child. I had not dared tell her back then, because I feared she would go make trouble with the Lin family. That would only have made the Lin family dislike me more. In my previous life, I never understood whether a woman's family stood behind her could make all the difference in her in-laws' home. Chu Whelan was fierce and not someone to be trifled with. She had grown up in a rough, remote place, dealing with someone like Wen Xiuzhen, who had been pampered since childhood. A well-bred heiress raised to follow the rules was child's play for her. If she had stood up for me in my previous life, my life in the Lin family would never have been so difficult. I remember you used to have quite a temper. You were never someone people could push around. Why have you become so spineless now? Seeing my aggrieved expression, Chu Whelan's tone gradually softened. I told you long ago not to fall for her. Then you would have had an easy life. But you even got angry with me over it, as if I were deliberately trying to hurt you. You think love is useless. Then did you not love my dad? I lifted my eyes and looked at her quietly. Chen, you are still too young. Chu Whelan sighed softly. When do people build a life together? Whether they can last for a lifetime cannot depend on love alone. You could even say love is not what sustains it. Once you truly marry someone, you will understand after living together a while. Before my rebirth, I endured countless hardships and every kind of misery love could bring. But because I never truly built a life with her, I still knew little of what marriage truly meant. Now I finally understand your good intentions. I blinked. I looked a little mischievous. From now on, I will listen to you more. Faced with my sudden affection, Chu Whelan was clearly unaccustomed to it. She pursed her lips awkwardly, then answered coldly, though her words said otherwise. Do not say that. I am not your biological mother. Whether you listen to me is up to you. The smile in my eyes deepened. You may not be my real mother, but you still care so much about me. Who has time to care about you? Chu Whelan waved impatiently. Go on. Get on with whatever you need to do. I could not help smiling happily. My eyes shimmered with light. All right. I will head upstairs first. It really was getting late. Upstairs, I took a quick hot shower. I changed, grabbed my withdrawal application, and headed out. There had only ever been one driver at home. He had been with Lin Wanwan during that car accident and was recovering from minor injuries himself. So I had to walk out of the villa complex, then hail a taxi on the main road. It was not easy to get a taxi around here. I waited a long time before finally finding one. Once inside, I gave the driver my destination. I took out my phone and messaged Xubai. We agreed to meet at the university gate. He seemed to be desperately explaining something. After only a few words, the man left. The moment I heard that, I had a suspicion. I pressed the driver for details. What did that man look like? What color clothes was he wearing? The driver gave a brief description from memory. I was certain the man was Zimo. What was he doing here in the middle of the night? I could not quite figure it out, but I was sure he was up to no good. That bastard was full of schemes. I knew that all too well from my previous life. I turned to the view outside the window. A cold, mocking glint crossed my eyes. Though I could not do anything to Lin Wanwan yet, but I could still make Zimo suffer a little. The taxi pulled smoothly up to H University's gate. After paying the fare, I got out at once. The first person I saw, squatting by the roadside, was my longtime friend, Xubai. He wore a casual tracksuit. The wind had tousled his hair. He looked as though he had just finished exercising. The instant he looked up and saw me, he sprang to his feet excitedly. Then he charged at me like a madman. Chen, you finally made it. I froze where I stood, not daring to move. I crossed my arms over my chest defensively, but I still could not avoid his flying tackle. He wrapped me in a tight bear hug. Chen, we have not seen each other in half a month. Do you know how much I missed you? I thought that after getting married, you had decided you no longer wanted me as your friend. His unruly hair covered my entire face. I put on a pitifully aggrieved expression. This is your punishment for avoiding me. You would not even let me attend your wedding. The hand I raised to push him away froze in midair. Back then, to marry Lin Wanwan without a hitch. When Xiuzhen had made a long list of demands, making me leave school was only one of them. She also demanded that I cut off all social ties. And snobbish when Xiuzhen's eyes. None of my friends were good enough. They were unfit to associate with Lin Wanwan's husband. I had been blinded by so-called love then. In my muddle-headed state, I agreed to everything. I even cruelly abandoned my old friends, including my brother, Xubai. I still remembered seeing him again in my previous life, and the deep disappointment in his eyes. When I later fell into utter isolation, every hardship I suffered was entirely my own doing. That wedding was never worth attending anyway. An endless wave of guilt rose in my heart, even though he was squeezing the breath out of me. I did not raise my hand to push him away again. Besides, I would be divorcing her soon enough. Huh. What did you say? Xubai abruptly released me. His face was filled with utter shock. I gave him a playful wink with my left. You heard me right. Once she recovers and leaves the hospital, I will immediately go file for divorce with her. Did you not dream of marrying her? Xubai scrunched his face in confusion. He vigorously raked his fingers through his messy hair. Was marrying her not your lifelong dream? I gave a non-committal shrug. That was when I was naive and foolish. But after marrying her, I found she was nothing special after all. She can't have children, can she? A wicked thought immediately entered my mind. I deliberately pressed my dry lips together. I put on a troubled look, as if reluctant to speak. Then you definitely need to divorce her. Xubai shook his head in deep regret. I never could have imagined it. That Lin Wanwan had such a hidden condition. The heavens truly are fair. I nodded in wholehearted agreement. That is exactly right. With Xubai's inability to keep his mouth shut, the gossip that Lin Wanwan might be infertile would spread across the entire city within a day. It counted as a small act of revenge against her. In an excellent mood, I slung an arm over his shoulder. Come on. Go with me to the academic advisor's office. I need to get my withdrawal application back. My main task from here on was to finish my remaining 3 years of university properly and live an ordinary, peaceful life. Chen, why did you want to leave school in the first place? That woman when Xiuzhen forced me to. Otherwise, she would not agree to let us marry. My voice dripped with mockery. He glanced up at my cold profile, reading the room perfectly. He burst into curses. I knew that woman was behind it. Why else would you leave school for no reason? A great man with qualities like yours. What else could she possibly be unhappy with? Do I have such great qualities? I pointed to a young man painting a bulletin board nearby. That is Yihui, the eldest son of the Yi family. That is what when Xiuzhen considers a good match. In plain terms, it is all about family background. She is shallow to the extreme. I merely gave a faint laugh. I did not respond to his complaint. Is that not how cruel the real world is? No matter how exceptional you are, if your family background is lacking, you are still beneath the Lin family. Thinking it through that way, even if Zimo had successfully married into the Lin family in my previous life, and even with Lin Wanwan's boundless love, his humble background alone would have kept him from living well. He would have endured scorn and contempt every day. That would have been hard to bear. Once I thought of it that way, I felt much better at once. We hurried to the academic advisor's office. Just as I raised my hand to knock, the office door was pulled open from inside. The man inside suddenly came face to face with me. His calm expression changed abruptly. Why are you here? Did you not already leave school? I could not hold it in and laughed aloud. The man standing before me was no stranger. He was Zimo's younger brother, Zhou. Speaking of Zhou, he really was Zimo's world's greatest little brother. He spent every day coveting his own brother's woman, while secretly sabotaging his brother at every turn. What a touching display of brotherly devotion. Leaving school does not mean he cannot re-enroll. Xubai grinned at Zhou. Now that Chen is back, you cannot steal the spotlight. Does that make you feel awful? Zhou glared at him darkly. I was not talking to you, loudmouth. Stop eagerly inserting yourself into my business. Do you not think that is beneath you? I do not care whether it lowers my standing. All I know is that you are inferior to Chen in every way. Using dirty tricks behind someone's back because you're furious, now that is low. When did I ever plot behind anyone's back? Xubai gave a scornful sneer. You know perfectly well what you did. In last month's anatomy class, Chen's rabbit was poisoned. You must have been behind it. A flash of panic crossed Zhou's eyes. Stop making wild accusations against me. I would never stoop to something so filthy. You need evidence before making accusations. You are the one who did it. I did not. I quickly cut off their endless argument. Smiling pleasantly, I addressed the man before me. I do not want to hear your pointless bickering. Zhou, you are blocking my way. Would you please step aside? Zhou stared at me with wide eyes. He showed no intention of moving aside. I knew Zhou far too well. Ever since I entered this university, simply because I was Lin Wanwan's fiancé, he had been like a rabid dog, determined to make trouble for me. If he did not come provoke me at least once a day, his twisted heart could not rest easy. Like this tense moment right now. He was surely looking for cruel words to wow me with, the kind that would not stop until they cut deep, just as I expected. Zhou Qiang struck within seconds. Mu Chen, if you left school and stayed home to devote yourself to pleasing Lin Wanwan, you might have won her heart. But now you have actually decided not to leave school, and my brother has returned to the country. You should probably prepare to divorce her soon. He knew exactly how to stab me where it hurt. If he had said that in my previous life, my heart would have twisted like a knife, wasn't it? But now, I felt nothing at all. So, instead of seeing a pained, miserable expression, he saw my neat, white teeth instead, as I gave him a chilling smile. The saying that make you feel better? What do you mean? My unexpected reaction left his mind blank. You have been secretly in love with Lin Wanwan all along. When you said I treated her well every day, did your heart not bleed? I suddenly reached out and gripped his jaw. I forcefully shook his face from side to side. Clicking my tongue, I continued contemptuously. You are not much worse looking than your brother. Are you not the least bit unwilling to accept that? Your brother has what it takes to force her to divorce me. Why do you think you cannot do the same? Zhou Qiang's face changed instantly. He slapped my hand away and roared. Mu Chen, stop spouting nonsense. I have never secretly loved Sister Lin. Look at you, acting so hypocritical. You love a woman, yet you do not even dare admit it. It seems that in this life, all you can do is stand aside and watch your own brother and the woman you love be loving and happy right in front of you. What I said was far more than merely cruel. I was hardly treating Zhou Qiang like a normal person. I was driving the dullest blade into his weakest spot. I wanted him in unbearable agony every day. I wanted his delusions to take root earlier than they had in my previous life. Before I finalized my divorce from Lin Wanwan, I would personally create more trouble for Zimo. Shut your mouth. Zhou Qiang's eyes had turned bloodshot. His chest heaved, and his breathing grew harsh. That is complete nonsense. I shrugged without a care. My face plainly said, you know it is true. Zhou Qiang was already beginning to crack. He shot me a venomous glare. Then he turned and hurried away. Chen, does Zhou Qiang like Lin Wanwan too? Xubai tightly grabbed my arm. Curiosity was written all over his face. I knew he was a gossip at heart, but this was clearly not the time to tell him too much. I gestured for him to calm down. Then I turned and entered the academic advisor's office. When I had insisted on withdrawing from school, the academic advisor had repeatedly tried to talk me out of it. Only after seeing I was determined to leave had he reluctantly agreed, full of regret. Now that I had suddenly changed my mind and wanted to stay, he was naturally delighted. After all, losing such an outstanding medical student was an extremely painful loss. After sternly lecturing me for a few moments, the advisor sent Xubai and me back. The moment we had walked a little way from the office, he looked up at me with stars in his eyes. Chen, hurry up and tell me. I am dying of curiosity. Tell me the whole truth. Quickly. Have you not already figured it out? Zhou Qiang really has been secretly in love with Lin Wanwan. The corner of my mouth curved slightly. My smile was heavy with mockery. He has adored Lin Wanwan since childhood, but all she has ever seen is Zimo. Until I said those things just now, he believed that as long as his brother was worthy of her, it was enough for him to quietly protect her from the sidelines. How do you know so much about this? Xubai was utterly stunned by this bombshell. I only smiled mysteriously and said nothing. Taking the hint, he did not press further. After struggling to process that shocking gossip, he asked, a little slow on the uptake, why? Before you said all that, did Zhou Qiang feel that way? And after you said it, he will definitely become unwilling to accept it. He will begin wanting to compete with his own brother. I was provoking the deepest desire in his heart. I took my locker key from my pocket. With a finger through the key ring, I spun it happily. Xubai finally understood. A wicked grin immediately spread across his face. Chen, you are still as devious as ever. I raised an eyebrow at him. Just now, I saw the Mu Chen from high school again. He bumped my shoulder hard. Then he gave a silly chuckle. Back then, you were so wild and arrogant. You were full of spirit and refused to bow to anyone. But once you entered university, you started acting like a good little boy. You became no fun at all. The smile on my face slowly faded. Mu Liheng's biological mother, my paternal grandmother, was from the north. When he was young, he often returned north with his mother to live there. Each time, they would stay for several months. That was why he was so open-hearted and uninhibited. And he truly was not all that bright. So he had lived happily and freely all these years. Otherwise, one failed investment could not have wiped out the Mu family's years of hard work overnight. I had inherited some of his personality. And because their expectations of me were very low, I completely let myself loose after entering high school. Strictly speaking, back then, I was a student with excellent grades. But in my teacher's eyes, I was a delinquent. As for why I forced myself to change after university, becoming a rule-abiding good boy, it was, of course, because of Lin Wanwan and Xiuzhen. I quickly pulled myself out of memories of my previous life. In a flat voice, I murmured softly, if she had not been in my world, how wonderful my previous life could have been. Chen, What were you muttering just now? Xubai had not heard me clearly. He asked with a curious look on his face. I gently shook my head, saying it was nothing. From now on, I will live as my true self. I firmly clasped his warm hand. Together, we headed to class with light steps. I had been smart since childhood. I learned everything much faster than others. I earned exceptional scores on my college entrance exam. When choosing my major, my parents told me to choose whatever I liked. Among all the popular majors available, I chose medicine without hesitation. The road to becoming a doctor is arduous and long. Mulihang had openly disapproved. I only firmly said that I liked it. I insisted on my choice without looking back. I did not reveal the real reason. The real reason was my biological mother's death. It was not entirely about saving more people or keeping more ordinary families from falling apart. It was to build merit and pray for blessings for my late mother. Her life had been far too short. I hoped that in her next life, she would be safe and blessed, and live out her days in peace. After a full morning of major courses, we had no classes that afternoon. Xubai had not hung out with me in ages, so he eagerly invited me to go shopping. I still had to go to the hospital and look after Wanwan. After I told him the truth, we agreed to go another day. Then I left campus and headed straight to the hospital. When I reached the hospital building, I had just gone upstairs toward the ward when I ran into Xiuzhen coming out. Xiuzhen visibly froze when she saw me. Then, with a complicated expression, she said, "You are quite something, kid." Her words left me utterly confused. What? Before you married Wanwan, she actually disliked you quite a bit. Yet after just one night, she does not seem to hate you as much anymore. Was I wrong to say you have some skills? Her words carried a pointed implication. I furrowed my brow and said nothing. I had always acted obedient around her. No matter how deliberately she made things difficult for me, or how harsh and cutting her words were, I would bow and scrape without ever talking back. Though I had become far more forceful since my rebirth, she clearly had not adjusted to it yet. Seeing me stand there in silence, she assumed I did not dare answer back. Instead, she pushed even further and sneered. Just as expected, the son raised by that woman is the same kind of trash at heart. Since she refused to stop pushing her luck, I had no intention of indulging her anymore. Xiuzhen, if you are sick, go see a doctor. I would not even call her mom for appearance's sake anymore. My expression instantly turned ice cold. You are, at least, a member of the Lin family. Yet you talk like a common street shrew. Are you not afraid of disgracing the Lin family? That was an exceptionally harsh thing to say. She clearly had not expected me to show her no respect at all, and insult her so bluntly to her face. For a moment, she stood frozen in shock. When she finally came to her senses, her face flushed a dark, furious red. Chen, how dare you speak to me like that? Even if you and Wanwan are about to divorce, you should not call me by my full name. I am still your elder. You are the one with no manners. You are bringing shame on your ancestors. She relied on her powerful birth family and had the good fortune to marry into the Lin family. She had always been spoiled and overbearing, like a porcupine covered in sharp quills. The moment she disliked someone, she would viciously lash out. But few people usually dared confront her head-on. So the worst insults she could come up with in an argument were only this laughable. Hearing her drag my ancestors into it, I could not help laughing out loud. Fine. Calling you by name was indeed wrong of me. How about I call you NGÓN from now on? NGÓN. Just how heartless are you? Your own daughter is lying and they're in pain. We do not even know whether her head injury will leave lasting damage. Instead of worrying about her health, you are wasting time here trying to provoke me. If you really have that much free time, why not go play a few rounds of mahjong? Chen, you are utterly outrageous. I rolled my eyes without a shred of decorum. I could not be bothered to deal with her anymore. Turning aside, I shoved open the ward door. I called loudly inside. Wanwan, your mother is completely unreasonable. I do not want to argue with her over this. You should have a caregiver look after you instead. Even if I had really killed Xiuzhen on the spot, she never would have imagined I would dare pull a stunt like this. I had practically driven her mad with rage. She raised a hand and shoved my shoulder hard. You actually dare complain to my daughter about me? Who the hell do you think you are? Wanwan, look at this excuse for a man. He has no respect for me as his elder. He even dared call me a common street shrew and say I am disgracing your Lin family. I cannot endure this insult for even one more day. I will call the Civil Affairs Bureau right now. You two must get divorced today. That would be wonderful. One clapped enthusiastically. Thank you so very much. Having such a powerful mother-in-law is fantastic. I do not even have to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau myself to get divorced. How convenient. Please hurry it up. One is a hopeless fool in love, and the other is a hot-tempered menopausal woman. I cannot stand this mother-daughter pair for another day. The veins in Lin Wanwan's forehead throbbed as she lay in bed. A terrifying, vicious aura radiated from her. Countless men in this world wanted to marry her. Any man would count himself lucky to marry her. Do not interfere where you are not wanted. Wanwan, If you do not divorce him now, then how much longer are you planning to wait? When Xiuzhen was utterly unable to understand, her eyes were nearly red with anger. A flash of irritation crossed Lin Wanwan's face. I told you not to interfere. I will interfere in this mess. I will not accept such a disgraceful son-in-law. Besides, have you not always liked Zimo? He has already returned to the country. Should you not be eager to finalize the divorce? So, you can marry him in style? Fine. I will divorce him today and register my marriage to Zimo tomorrow. Lin Wanwan spoke coldly, her face expressionless. Absolutely not. When Xiuzhen blurted it out almost instinctively, her precious daughter should marry someone of equal standing. A man from a powerful family who was exceptional in his own right. What kind of men were Chen and Zimo? Not only could neither help her daughter's career, they might even become a serious burden to her later. Lin Wanwan let out an icy laugh. So this was what her mother had thought all along. No wonder she had coldly done that back then. Since you would never agree to let me marry him anyway, why should I rush to divorce now? Lin Wanwan turned her head warily. Her lifeless eyes stared at the ceiling. Tell Chen to get his ass in here and see me. Wanwan, listen to your mother. Do not waste your breath. Lin Wanwan cut her off coldly. Her tone was hard and utterly emotionless. When Xiuzhen shot me one last fierce, unwilling glare. Then she turned and stormed away. I kept my eyes fixed on her furious retreating back. My expression turned thoughtful. In my previous life, my eyes and heart held only Lin Wanwan. I had never noticed such an obvious blind spot. A strong-willed woman like Xiuzhen had never been able to stand firm against her own daughter. She did almost anything her daughter told her. Was it really only because she loved her daughter too much? But she was Lin Wanwan's biological mother. If she truly decided to make a scene, Lin Wanwan would most likely have no choice but to give in. The more I thought about it, the stranger it seemed. She heard every doubt in my heart clearly. I was entirely focused on guessing what she was thinking. It left Lin Wanwan feeling especially conflicted. She gave a light cough. She meant to draw back my wandering attention. I snapped out of my thoughts. I turned to look at her silently, confused. Get in here. I went inside as she said. I stopped only when I reached her bedside. Then I pulled over a chair and sat down. Why not take this chance to divorce me outright? When Xiuzhen was not the only one who did not understand, I was equally baffled. There is no reason. You and Zimo love each other. Since you want to marry him in style, your mother's fierce opposition would not stop you. So I truly could not understand it. If I had not clung to you so desperately in my previous life, then on the very day he returned, you would have dragged me off to divorce without delay. We would never have remained tangled in love and resentment for 3 years. If we divorced immediately after getting married, it would badly damage the Ling Group's reputation. So we absolutely cannot divorce anytime soon. Before my rebirth, this woman dreamed of divorcing me but could not. After my rebirth, I was the one dreaming of divorce. Life truly was full of bitter irony. I could not let this drag on any longer. We had to divorce once you were discharged. So he really had been reborn. Such unbelievable things truly existed in this world. You seem to have forgotten that when we held our wedding, only both our families attended. Even the media did not know we were married because you deliberately hid our marriage. The public still thinks you are single. So our divorce will not affect the Ling Group at all. Secrets never stay hidden forever. Then I need a definite timeline. How long until we can divorce? At least 6 months. 6 months is absolutely impossible. I cannot wait that long. Then how long do you want? We divorce as soon as you are discharged. A year. Why are you suddenly raising your demands? I might as well tell you the truth. I already have someone I truly love. That is why I am eager to divorce you and be with him. I do not believe a word you say. I have no reason to lie to you. If you can accept me fooling around during our marriage and willingly let me cheat on you, then I suppose I can reluctantly do as you say and wait 6 months before filing for divorce. I can accept that. What exactly can you accept? So this heartless ingrate believes in Buddha now? Have you started eating vegetarian and saving all living beings? Fine. You said it yourself. Since you can accept even that without a fuss, I have nothing more to say. If you say 6 months, then 6 months it is. But first, we need to agree on 3 ground rules. I will move back home during that time. We will each live our own lives. If there is no reason, we should not see each other again. That is perfectly fine. It was time for lunch. 10 minutes later, I came in carrying an insulated lunchbox. I sat down expressionlessly and opened it. I brought a spoonful of hot porridge to her lips. Perhaps I had deliberately let my hand shake, but quite a bit of porridge spilled onto her neck. Chen. Those 2 words seemed to be forced from the depths of her lungs, barely suppressing her immense rage. I hurriedly stood up, feigning panic. I pulled several tissues from the box on the cabinet. Then I clumsily wiped her neck. I apologized repeatedly as I wiped. I am so sorry. I really did not mean to. Please do not be angry. That is what you get for deliberately messing with me just now. You cannot move a muscle right now, so I can do whatever I want to. Lin Wanwan heard my thoughts loud and clear. She felt the tissue, covered in sticky liquid, gradually making its way toward her delicate face. Her face darkened like the bottom of a scorched pot. There is no porridge on my face. Oh, there isn't. I am terribly sorry. I thought there was some. Chen, are you tired of living? I know Miss Lin is powerful and influential. Anyone who crosses you meets a miserable end. But you cannot punish me just because I accidentally spilled some porridge. You would not really be cruel enough to kill me, would you? Wanwan let out a cold laugh. I certainly could. Then we will discuss it when you can move. For now, just bear it quietly. I answered with an equally merciless cold laugh. Wanwan glared fiercely at me, her eyes filled with a deep, bloody red. Wipe my entire body clean, then change me into clean clothes. I cannot do that. I am a young man in the prime of my life. Would that really be appropriate? I will find someone to change you. Wanwan was truly furious this time. Rare anger appeared on her usually icy face. Absolutely not. You have to do it. If you do not clean me up today, with a loud bang. Before Wanwan could finish her threat, I had already hurried out of the room. Wanwan squeezed her eyes shut in pain. She felt every blood vessel in her body constricting with rage, as though they might burst at any moment. In the past, Chen had acted this way around her, and when Xiuzhen, he had always seemed meek and obedient. He had seemed completely harmless. But now, it was clear. It had all been a deliberate act. This man was certainly no pushover. She did not know how long she had endured that torment, just as she was reaching the limit of her endurance. The hospital room door was finally pushed open. Hurry up? Wanwan urged impatiently. Miss, just bear with it a little longer. I will get a wet towel from the bathroom first. The hoarse voice from the doorway left her stunned. She stiffly turned her neck to look. A woman who looked to be in her 50s was staggering toward the bathroom. Wanwan had no idea where Chen had found her. The woman looked disheveled and grimy. She wore an old-fashioned, worn-out work uniform, covered in numerous suspicious stains. Having such a woman wash her body would be worse than putting her out of her misery. Get out now. Miss, Mr. Mu told me what happened to you. You have my deepest sympathy. You can rest assured, I would never laugh at you. Do you know who I am? Does it matter who you are? My name is Wanwan. Never heard of you. That damned Chen. Wanwan took a deep, forceful breath. Then she closed her eyes in despair. Seeing this, the woman immediately strode over. Having her body washed was especially tortuous for her. I pretended to yawn. The person I found is not too bad, right? Quite good. Please continue taking such thoughtful care of me until I leave the hospital. To my surprise, she did not explode in fury this time. Instead, she remained remarkably calm. But when she said the words thoughtful care, they seemed to be forced through clenched teeth. Otherwise, I might have thought she was not angry at all. I narrowed my eyes ominously. A hint of wariness appeared on my face. This woman was extremely vindictive. Who knew what she was plotting? So, she could take revenge once she could move again? But since I had already offended her completely, I would be punished no matter what. Then I might as well kick her while she is down. Wanwan suddenly felt that her current situation was hardly any better than Wu Dowling's. She tried to move her arm gently. A stabbing pain made her gasp. She could forget about moving on her own. Realizing this cruel fact clearly, she licked her dry lips. Then she suddenly asked, Chen, do you still love me? I gave a soft scoff. What do you mean? Do I still love you? I never loved you in the first place. I answered decisively, without the slightest hesitation. My expression and tone showed not the slightest sign that I was lying. Even without hearing my inner thoughts, she could clearly tell that my feelings for her were completely gone. This realization dimmed Wanwan's eyes. She was not truly heartbroken, only a little regretful, without her noticing at all. A sincere feeling had quietly faded away. The two of us remained silent for a long while. Wanwan finally spoke in a hoarse voice. If I marry Zimo, will we be happy? Probably. I do not think so. I cannot say. Do you need anything else? Wanwan shook her head. Then get some good sleep. I am going to take a nap too. I walked over to the family cot beside her bed. I took off my shoes and lay down. When I closed my eyes, I could feel her staring at me. Wanwan's gaze irritated me. Why did she keep staring at me? Was something wrong with her? The moment that thought crossed my mind, Wanwan turned her face away. My tightly furrowed brows slowly relaxed. Before long, I fell into a deep sleep. Hearing my breathing grow steady, Wanwan knew I was sound asleep, so she turned her gaze toward me again. At that moment, in Wanwan's eyes, I looked exceptionally handsome. She had never noticed me before. Only now did she realize how attractive I was. My sharply defined face and striking presence featured strong, handsome features I was impossible to overlook. In terms of looks, I was certainly no less attractive than Zimo. Perhaps her gaze was too intense. Even in my sleep, I felt uncomfortable. I frowned and groaned twice. Then I turned over. Wanwan gave a faint smile. Then she closed her eyes as well. I slept until 4 in the afternoon. When I woke and saw the hospital room door open, I was a little puzzled. I turned over and saw Wanwan lying beside me. She was still asleep and had not woken up. I slowly sat up in bed. I put on my shoes and walked out of the room. Zhu was standing nearby. A smile immediately spread across my face. When did you get here? I only arrived a short while ago. Zhu was rather reserved. She rarely smiled, but faced with my friendly smile, she could only force a stiff smile. The nurse said the door had to be opened regularly for ventilation, so I opened it. So that was why. I knew I could not act familiar with her. After speaking, I turned to go back into the room. Sir, I ran into young Master Zhou when I arrived. He was making a phone call downstairs. I do not know whether he will come up later. Zhu did not really need to say this. She should not have said it at all, but perhaps she sensed my goodwill. After hesitating, she told me anyway. I was slightly stunned when I heard that. Then I smiled faintly. If he wants to come up, let him. He can decide for himself. No one can stop him from going wherever he wants. But President Lin will mind. Zhu did not dare to be too direct. She could only hint at it tactfully. You will feel hurt when that happens. I smiled and shook my head. I will not. I am already used to it. Zhu did not know how to respond, so she chose to remain silent. I was about to say something else when a woman's cold voice came from the room. It carried a faint trace of anger. Chen, I am thirsty. I instinctively rolled my eyes. Then I nodded and smiled at Zhu. I turned and walked into the room. The woman in the hospital bed was glaring at me. I assumed she was simply irritable after waking up. She probably found everyone irritating, so I did not think much of it. I poured her a cup of warm water and brought it over. Are you close to Zhu? Lin Wanwan's eyes flickered slightly. She had already asked a similar question. A trace of irritation crossed my face. No. Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. Did she have nothing better to do? Why had she suddenly become interested in Zhu and me? Why did she care whether we knew each other or were actually close? Was she really this bored? All right. This woman really was very bored right now, hearing my complaints. She heard not a single kind word about herself in my thoughts. Anyone would be upset after hearing so much, because I was deliberately being nice to her. I wore a fake smile. Why? Why else would a man try to charm a woman? Obviously, because I had my eye on her. The curve of my lips deepened. You can accept me cheating on you, can't you? A broad-minded woman like you is hard to find. I might as well cheat on you a few more times while I can. Since we were going to play a thrilling game, we might as well take it to the extreme. I was determined to drive her absolutely mad. As my voice gradually faded, Lin Wanwan's face turned cold as ice. Although she knew I was deliberately provoking her and did not mean what I said, she was still furious. Her gaze was deep and icy. Her gaze seemed bottomless. I could not help but feel a jolt of alarm. A chill instantly crept into my heart. She possessed the powerful aura of someone born to command. When she was angry, even without an expression or a single word, she was intimidating enough to inspire fear. Before my rebirth, I had witnessed her methods. I was genuinely afraid of her. If I had not been consumed by anger and taken advantage of her current helplessness, I would never have dared offend her like this. You have grown much bolder. Lin Wanwan slightly curled the corner of her lips. Her smile was faintly sinister. Keep it up. I pressed my lips tightly together. Should I stop provoking her? Otherwise, once she recovered and left the hospital, I would not even know what hit me. Lin Wanwan quietly listened to my thoughts. Her smile became full of mockery. Take revenge on her? This man certainly had quite an imagination. You must be thirsty by now. Have some water. I hurriedly picked up the glass beside her, trying to calm Lin Wanwan's anger. I wanted to keep her from plotting against me. Lin Wanwan smiled faintly. A slap, then a sweet treat. Not a chance. As if that would work. You are overthinking it. I do not admit it. Lin Wanwan gave a cold laugh. She was just about to scare me when the sound of leather shoes came from outside. I guessed that Zimo had arrived. I immediately brought the glass to Lin Wanwan's lips. Darling, let me give you some water. My sudden change in behavior stunned her. Then she saw Zimo walk into the room and instantly understood why. Of course, she would not cooperate with my performance unless she had suddenly become a saint. Move a little farther away from me, Lin Wanwan said coldly. That was exactly what I expected. I dropped my fake smile. I straightened up and shrugged indifferently. Then I deliberately sighed and said loudly, you still hate me so much. Let me feed her. Zimo quickly walked over. He took the glass from my hand and looked gently at Lin Wanwan. Her words just now reassured him. It seemed I had only been bluffing yesterday. Lin Wanwan had always had eyes only for him. She had never spared another man a second glance. How could she suddenly change her heart? Besides, a young man like me was not her type at all. His worries had been completely unnecessary. But even so, he still had to make Wanwan divorce me as soon as possible. He had waited too long for this day. He simply could not wait any longer. It was time to marry Lin Wanwan. As long as he made the slightest gesture of goodwill toward Lin Wanwan, everything he wanted would soon be his. What was Zimo plotting? You finally came back after 5 years abroad. Even if you fed her poison, she might swallow it gladly. My intention to sow discord was painfully obvious. I might as well have written it on my face. Anger flared in Zimo's heart, but because Lin Wanwan was there, he could only force himself to endure it. Chen, I know you dislike me. I can understand that. But now that you are married to Wanwan, I hope you two can live happily together. You really do not need to be so hostile toward me. What makes you think I am hostile toward you? I found his words utterly ridiculous. You think you are worth my hatred? Zimo's expression changed immediately. No one had ever dared speak to Wanwan like that. What gave Chen the right to be so arrogant? The reason Zimo found this so hard to accept was entirely because Lin Wanwan had spoiled him in the past. Thank you for being so understanding, Mr. Zhou. If I say something even worse the next time we meet, I hope you will not take it personally. Lin Wanwan had seen Zimo's true colors. Naturally, she would no longer defend him. She narrowed her long, slender eyes. She intended to let everything unfold and focus on listening to the thoughts of both men. When she did not scold me for a long time, Zimo raised his eyes to look at her. Lin Wanwan remained completely still. Zimo bit his lip hard. He reached out and grabbed Lin Wanwan's arm. He said softly, his face pale, "Forget it, Sister Wanwan. Chen is young and inexperienced. It is only natural that he dislikes me and says harsh things." She did not say anything, okay? A powerful sense of disgust spread through her. Lin Wanwan's deep black eyes were filled with frost, like ice 1,000 years old that could never melt. In Zimo's memories, Lin Wanwan had always looked at him tenderly. When had she ever looked at him with such indifference? He widened his eyes in disbelief. His face instantly turned frighteningly pale. Resentment and sorrow appeared in his eyes. "Why are you looking at me like that? I am not in a very good mood." Lin Wanwan looked away from his face. "Both of you, be quiet." Zimo bit down on his lower lip. "Are you still angry with me? Are you angry that I left abroad for 5 years without coming back to see you even once? You are overthinking it. Wanwan was overjoyed after you left. Otherwise, she would never have agreed to marry me. She was even so passionate on our wedding night. I could not help interrupting. I was being absolutely unbearable. I just had to interrupt while Zimo was trying to have a heart-to-heart with her, and with words that could throw him completely off balance. You want to have a heart-to-heart with her and rekindle your feelings. If I let you pull this off today, I will write my name backward. Lin Wanwan found it somewhat amusing. The moment she smiled, Zimo's heart sank. Any more self-comfort would have been pure self-deception. Lin Wanwan might truly have fallen out of love. Otherwise, she would never have let me act so arrogantly in front of him, thinking he might have lost his chance to enter the Lin family. Zimo grew unbearably anxious. He clenched both hands into unwilling fist. Then he looked at Lin Wanwan with heartbreak written all over his face. Was everything he said true? I do not believe it. He must be lying, right? Seeing how miserable he looked, I could not have felt more satisfied. A platter of fresh fruit sat on the coffee table. It was filled with stemmed grapes. I reached over and grabbed a large handful. Then I tossed them into my mouth one by one. I looked utterly smug. I had no idea why this woman was so cold toward him, but it was absolutely wonderful for me. Once this woman recovered and left the hospital, I would worry Zimo sick enough to lose 22 pounds. I kept calling her this woman in my head. The veins on Lin Wanwan's forehead began to bulge. She did not want me to feel so pleased with myself. She lifted her eyes to Zimo and gave him her first smile since they had met. Of course not. I knew it. Zimo instantly burst into tears of joy. I truly regret it. I should never have gone abroad. Otherwise, My expression turned displeased. The grapes in my mouth suddenly no longer tasted sweet. I tossed the uneaten grapes back onto the platter and stood up. I am going to the restroom. He really was the man Lin Wanwan had loved for years. How could she simply stop loving him? I truly did not understand how she had fallen for a man so two-faced, with more schemes than a dragon fruit has seeds, in the first place, and somehow stayed devoted to him for all these years. With her judgment in men, it was a miracle the Lin group had not fallen apart. Chen. Lin Wanwan's angry voice came from behind me. I stopped in my tracks. Then I turned around, utterly baffled. Zimo also stared at her in confusion. Lin Wanwan drew several deep breaths, trying to suppress the anger burning inside her. But in the end, she failed. Use the restroom outside. Lin Wanwan snarled loudly. She could not let anyone know she could hear thoughts. So losing her temper now would only make people think she was crazy. I was completely speechless. Was she losing her temper at me on Zimo's behalf? Was her reaction time not a little too long? Looks like the accident must have damaged her brain. For the first time, Lin Wanwan felt that this mind-reading ability was absolutely dreadful and maddening. Unless she were an emotionless block of wood, she would eventually make herself seriously ill from anger. Muttering to myself, I walked out of the hospital room, only after I had gone far enough that Lin Wanwan could no longer hear my thoughts. Did her tightly furrowed brows slowly relax? In the 5 years since I left you, I truly missed you. With that nuisance out of the way, Zimo planned to pour his heart out to her again. Lin Wanwan was in a foul mood. She merely answered with a cold hum. It was only after I arrived in a foreign land and had to live there alone that I realized how much you had protected me. Only then did I understand that you were the only one who could make me happy. Zimo pressed his lips together. He looked as though he wanted to speak but hesitated. Do you have feelings for Chen? What kind of feelings do you mean? Lin Wanwan shot him a sidelong glance. Love, of course. Two people must love each other to get married, right? Only love can bring happiness. At least half of what he said was wrong. He had said it deliberately. His goal was to awaken the old Wanwan, the one who could not live without him. Back then, Lin Wanwan had been absolutely certain that marrying him would guarantee her happiness. I do not have romantic feelings for him. Lin Wanwan's expression was completely calm. Zimo's face immediately brightened. He was just about to speak when Lin Wanwan suddenly changed course. But I am quite interested in him now. Does that count as a feeling in your eyes? As soon as she finished speaking, the color drained from Zimo's face. Realizing she might not love him was one thing. Hearing it from her own lips was another. Are you serious? Zimo's throat felt as though it were filled with sand. His voice sounded unbearably hoarse. The blow was devastating. The woman who had always been completely devoted to him had just admitted she was interested in another man. It hurt worse than losing everything. Lin Wanwan nodded coldly, crushing his last sliver of hope. He wished desperately that he had heard her wrong, or that Wanwan was only saying it in anger. Sadly, neither was true. Lin Wanwan was completely serious. Why? Zimo gripped the ornament on the bag tightly. You are not. You want to say I do not love you deeply. Lin Wanwan cut him off without mercy. The mockery in her eyes could not have been clearer. But you have always rejected my love. Does it matter whether I love you? I am interested in Chen. That should not matter to you either. So, why did you ask? Do you not find that strange? I simply did not want you to get me so easily. I wanted you to believe that my marrying you was something you had fought hard to win. That way, you would learn to cherish me and keep your heart focused on me. Only then could I hold my head high before you and in the Lin family. But I never imagined that your love for me amounted to so little. I went abroad to polish my credentials and came back. Yet you are interested in another man. One wrong move, and I lost everything. Zimo drew a deep breath. Then he forcefully tore the tassel from the bag. He barely managed to calm himself. I regret it, all right. Lin Wanwan's eyes were deep and cold. Zimo's thoughts left her feeling toward him nothing but deep disgust. He had actually been trying to control her all along. What incredible nerve and ambition. Though my thoughts in the restroom had been harsh, they had also been completely right. She was terrible at judging men. I understand. Lin Wanwan's reaction was as calm as still water. The thing she had once longed for could now be hers with the crook of her finger. Yet she was no longer moved by it at all. Your regret is your own affair. But I am married now, so I am truly sorry. She had practically said outright that there was no chance left. Watching years of careful planning go down the drain, Zimo completely broke down. Lin Wanwan, you really are heartless. His face was instantly covered in tears. Anyone would have pitied a man brought to tears. But once Lin Wanwan came to despise someone, no matter how handsome and charming he was, he could not stir the slightest ripple in her heart. She did not respond. Whether she did not want to respond, or simply could not be bothered, either way, his emotions were being driven to the breaking point. It made him even more distraught. You loved me so deeply before. Why do you not love me anymore? Zimo cried as he wiped away his tears. His accusatory tone made him sound like a hurt child. You big liar. You said you would wait for me forever. Lin Wanwan remained unmoved. She glanced at the clock on the wall. I have been in the restroom for 15 minutes. Did that man sneak off? Lin Wanwan's gaze darkened. If that man dared to run away, she would show him no mercy. You know I take a long time to warm up. Besides, I was too young back then. I was still naive about love. But now I am certain. I love you too. I fell in love with you before I even realized it. Zimo did not notice that she was not listening at all. He poured out his grievances with utmost sincerity. I finally dawdled out of the restroom. I had taken a call from Xubai, so I was a little late getting back. Just as I reached the ward door, I heard a man's muffled sobs inside. I pushed open the door with a broad smile and spoke. Mr. Zhou, please don't cry beside my wife's hospital bed. Anyone who didn't know better would think she had died. Zimo's sobbing abruptly stopped. He turned and glared at me with naked hatred. It must be that fool who doesn't know what's good for him. He must have used some shameful, underhanded trick to bewitch Wanwan's mind. He must have badmouthed me behind my back. Otherwise, After Wanwan loving me for so many years, how could she suddenly stop loving me? Wanwan must still have feelings for me. I definitely still have a chance to turn things around. All my years of effort cannot go to waste. Zimo's thoughts irritated Lin Wanwan and filled her with deep anger. Her love for him had been part of his calculations all along. For all these years, he had toyed with her as if she were in the palm of his hand. For someone as proud as her, it was a profound humiliation. Don't look at me like that. You're scaring me. I had no idea what happened during the 15 minutes I was gone between the two of them. But judging from the situation now, they had definitely had a falling out. If I didn't stir things up now, when would I? Darling, he scared me to death. I hurried to the bedside and crouched down, resting my chin on the edge of the bed. I looked up at Lin Wanwan pitifully. He looked at me as if he wanted to eat me alive. I didn't think it was that serious. Why was he so angry? He was impossible to deal with. Lin Wanwan glanced sideways at me. The corner of her mouth twitched almost imperceptibly. With a personality this punchable, are you sure she didn't do something to me in my previous life? Lin Wanwan did not yet understand that once you truly love someone, you expose your weakness to them. If the person you love ever decides to hurt you, you are the one who hands them the knife. If you did not love them deeply, who would willingly give someone the chance to hurt them? Chen, that's enough. Rage shot straight to Zimo's head. He pointed at my nose in fury. You're deliberately trying to provoke me. How am I provoking you? Don't falsely accuse an innocent man. Everything I said is the truth. You know perfectly well what happened between Wanwan and me. What do I know? I cut him off without the slightest courtesy and playfully stuck out my tongue. I only just turned 20 this year. You and Wanwan are both 26. Back when the two of you were intimate, I had not even finished middle school. How could I possibly know what happened between you? Brother Zhou, I know you like Wanwan. Wanwan used to like you too. But we're married now. Still, you two can be together if you want. After all, she can accept me finding someone else. I can't afford to look petty, can I? I'll even allow you to meet from time to time. What nonsense are you talking about? Wanwan, listen to what he is saying. You said you were interested in this kind of man. I simply cannot believe it. Zimo roared furiously. I'm only 20. I'm not some 26-year-old fossil. I'm still just a boy. I'm not some mature man or uncle. I refuted him with a broad grin. That felt incredibly satisfying. I hope you're so mad you ache all over. You jerk. Whether Zimo was hurting all over from anger remained unknown for now, but he was certainly furious. His body swayed slightly twice. He forced two words through clenched teeth. Chen, what's wrong, uncle? Oh, no, brother Zhou. Why are you calling my name so excitedly? I blinked my innocent, wide eyes and put on a pure, harmless expression. Compared with him in his furious state, I was certainly much more likable like this. Even Zimo himself thought so. He realized he must look utterly dreadful now. He took several deep breaths before barely managing to compose his expression. Then he glared at me and asked coldly, Chen, you like playing the victim, don't you? Playing the victim. I tilted my head in confusion. Brother Zhou, what does playing the victim mean? I don't really understand. Zimo let out a cold laugh and lowered his eyes toward Lin Wanwan. He says he doesn't understand the term, but you should understand it very well. Lin Wanwan's powerful family background and extraordinarily beautiful features meant that men were always drawn to her. But in the past, she had eyes only for him. She always coldly rejected men who pursued her. There had once been an exception. Back when Lin Wanwan was in high school, a particularly crafty male classmate had surprisingly earned some of her approval. After Zimo found out, he interacted with the boy and discovered he was a typical schemer. So, he immediately explained the situation to Lin Wanwan and described in detail what a schemer was. Lin Wanwan had always listened to him. After that, she had also grown to hate that type of person. Therefore, this was a powerful counterattack. Unfortunately, the Lin Wanwan of today was no longer the obedient woman she once was, the one who always followed his wishes. Lin Wanwan gave me a casual glance, then looked at Zimo and asked in return, does he? Zimo's body suddenly swayed. His expression became horribly unnatural. Brother Zhou, I was only joking with you. Of course, I know what it means, but I am not pretending to be pitiful. I am pretending to be cute. I touch my chin with my index finger, wearing a particularly charming smile. If I act cute for a woman who likes me, she will certainly like me even more. Why wouldn't I take advantage of such a good deal? Wanwan doesn't like you at all. Zimo shouted harshly. Of course, I knew Lin Wanwan did not like me, so even though they were currently at odds, and Lin Wanwan was merely sulking at Zimo, I could not count on her to play along and rile him up. After all, Losing that bet would be humiliating. So, I thought quickly and delivered an impeccable reply. I have pretty thick skin. Even if your Wanwan doesn't like me, I will simply pretend that she does. I really am a genius. Brother Zhou, although you are a little old now, you do not look very cute when you act cute, but you have no other choice. To win my wife's affection, you should probably give it a try. My wife may not say anything aloud, but she might secretly love it. My words could not have been more cutting. They could not have been more infuriating. Calling her my wife again and again sent his fury through the roof. Anyone with slightly less self-control would have already been cursing furiously, but Zimo was a schemer himself. Otherwise, he never would have made Wanwan fall for him. So he knew that, given the current situation, turning things around was impossible. His grip on the bag loosened slightly. He forced out an ugly smile. Chen, you're too young and inexperienced. A man's appeal is not limited to being cute, but it doesn't matter. I'll prove it to you. What kind of man is best suited for her? I shrugged indifferently. My attitude was even more infuriating than anything I could have said. He was afraid he'd go insane if he stayed any longer. He looked at Wanwan, his face pale, and said, I'm not feeling well. I'll leave first. I'll come see you again tomorrow. As soon as he finished speaking, he received no response from the woman. In the past, whenever he said he felt unwell, Wanwan would become especially worried. She treated him like a fragile baby. Even during the 5 years he was abroad, whenever he felt unwell, she would arrange for someone to take him to the hospital. She cared for him in every possible way. But now, she remained completely unmoved. What else could it be but that she no longer loved him? Zimo's eyes reddened. In the end, he couldn't bear to have his dignity trampled into the dirt. Without another word, he turned and left. I can't accept this. Have I worked hard all these years, only to find I still can't marry into the Lin family? I really can't accept this. Absolutely not. I can't give up so easily. With my background, marrying a woman from a prestigious family is simply too difficult. Wanwan is my only remaining hope. As long as there's even a sliver of hope, I'll seize it. Otherwise, I'll be stuck as a nobody. Wanwan lowered her eyes as she listened to his thoughts. Deep scorn flashed in her eyes. He wanted to change his lowly status by marrying her. That had been his sole purpose from beginning to end. Her sincere love had been pitifully betrayed. One mistake had cost her all these years. It was getting late. I should head home too. I still have class at school tomorrow. Zimo was gone. There was no need for me to keep acting cute. My rugged face returned to its icy expression. With your speed at changing faces, it would be a shame not to perform on stage. A clear smile curved Wanwan's lips. She looked to be in an excellent mood. She had fallen for Zimo back then, partly because he was genuinely skilled at winning people over, and partly because he happened to be her type. I was the exact opposite. But for some reason, the more she looked at me now, the more she liked what she saw. She even found my infuriating behavior cute. Wanwan thought she must have gone crazy. Could it be because of those tragic thoughts of mine? Because she knew I had once loved her deeply? She couldn't figure it out either. She only knew that until she understood what I had been through, she couldn't possibly let me leave her side. If you dare listen, I dare sing. I replied expressionlessly. Fine. The appearance fee is 30 million yuan per performance. Wanwan couldn't hold back her laughter. You really know how to ask for the moon. If you dare listen, what could I possibly be afraid to demand? I stood up and prepared to dust off my clothes and leave. Let the caregiver look after you tonight. No. Wanwan objected, not because she was reluctant to see me go, but because she was afraid I would go to the psychiatric ward and bring someone else over again. Even now, recalling that crazy man from the afternoon left her feeling unsettled. I furrowed my brow slightly. I was just about to fire back when Xiuzhen walked in. I cried out inwardly. What a frustrating day. No sooner had I seen Zimo off than when Xiuzhen showed up. Even a fighter like me was too tired to fight this late at night. Seeing me holding my school bag and preparing to leave, when Xiuzhen demanded coldly, "You're leaving?" I nodded indifferently. It's too late. If I don't go home, Mom will worry. Oh, give me a break. When Xiuzhen's face was full of scorn. You think that stepmother of yours worries about you? She'd love nothing more than for you never to come back. So no one could fight her biological son for the inheritance. If you can't say anything nice, keep quiet. The Lin family has more than enough money. They certainly won't miss a little money. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. I slung my bag over my shoulder and walked straight out. When Xiuzhen had finally learned her lesson, she didn't try to stop me. After I left the ward, when Xiuzhen hurried to the bedside and set the insulated food container on the nightstand. Daughter, Mom made this chicken soup herself. This accident seriously weakened you. You need to nourish your body properly. Drink a few extra bowls later. Wanwan nodded faintly. She said nothing when Xiuzhen poured chicken soup into a bowl, while secretly studying her expression. Once she finished, she said casually, I ran into Zimo downstairs. His eyes were red. Did you two have a fight? No. Then why was he? I know what you're trying to find out. Wanwan cut when Xiuzhen off. Her gaze was perfectly calm. I told you. apart from Grandpa Lin. No one can decide whom I marry. And when it comes to my love life, no one else has the right to interfere or decide for me. Her gaze grew sharper with every word. When Xiuzhen's throat tightened, she wanted to speak, but did not dare. In the end, she could only sigh helplessly. Afterward, she fed Lin Wanwan to bowls of chicken soup, then tittied up and left. Zhu was standing outside the door when Xiuzhen walked past her, then stepped back. Her gaze was full of scrutiny. Assistant Zhu, you were standing outside the whole time. Do you know whether Zimo was inside? What happened between the three of them? When Xiuzhen moved closer to Zhu and asked in a low voice by her ear, Zhu's eyes flickered slightly. She gently shook her head. President Lin instructed me that whenever other people were present, I was to stay a little farther from the hospital room. So I don't know anything. When Xiuzhen clicked her tongue in annoyance, her expression darkened. But Zhu belonged to Wanwan. She didn't dare show too much displeasure, so she turned and walked away angrily. I left the hospital and went straight home. Chu Weilin was sitting on the living room sofa, wearing a face mask while watching television. Hearing the door open, she turned around. When she saw me coming back, she peeled off the mask she had just applied. Why are you back so late at night? Over there. It was just the housekeeper and me. I was scared living alone on the second floor. I placed my keys on the shoe cabinet in the entryway, walked into the living room, and sat beside her. Besides, nowhere feels as comfortable as home. Chu Weilin glanced at me sit along and snorted coldly. Even if you married into the Lin family intending to divorce Lin Wanwan, you only got married a few days ago, and you're already running home. Who knows what people will say about you? I don't care what other people say about me. I grabbed a grape from the fruit bowl and popped it into my mouth. I leaned back on the sofa with a contented smile. Even if no woman ever wanted me again, I wouldn't care in the slightest. Spending the rest of my life with you two would suit me just fine. Stop spouting nonsense. Irritation flashed in Chu Hulin's eyes as she glared at me. Keep it up, and I'll throw you out. Then you'll have to fend for yourself. I gave an indifferent little smile. You couldn't bear to throw me out. You didn't carry me for 9 months and give birth to me. Why wouldn't I? If you'd said that before I was reborn, I would certainly have been upset, and I would have resented her even more. But now, I wasn't affected at all. I swallowed the sweet grape in my mouth and rose from the soft sofa. You knew I'd come home tonight. Otherwise, you wouldn't have left grapes on the coffee table. Mom, you always say one thing and mean another. It'll come back to bite you sooner or later. Chu Weilin gave a soft scoff. The biggest mistake I made was not sending you away sooner. Think of how much food you've wasted. I chuckled. I'll keep freeloading for many years to come. You'll just have to suffer in silence. As soon as I finished speaking, I scampered upstairs. Chen, when are you moving your things back? Chu Weilin stood up and called after me. I stopped halfway up the stairs and looked back down. I'm planning to move them tomorrow. Help me contact a moving company. Was I indebted to you in a past life? Chu Weilin shouted angrily. I knew she'd definitely help me contact one. Grinning from ear to ear, I went upstairs. I returned to my long-missed, cozy room. I took a deep breath. The scent of lavender filled my nose and relaxed my tightly wound nerves. Before my rebirth, I rarely came back after getting married. Yet every time I returned, the room was spotless. The scent of lavender lingered everywhere. Even when I stayed away for a long time, she still cleaned my room regularly. Unfortunately, I hadn't been very perceptive in my previous life. I noticed it, but never stopped to think about why. I sighed softly. I walked to the spacious wardrobe and opened the door. Neat, clean pajamas were arranged inside. I smiled knowingly. Then I took the pajamas into the bathroom. Once my nerves completely relaxed, an overwhelming wave of drowsiness hit me. I was afraid I'd fall asleep in the bathtub, so I gave up on taking a relaxing bath. I took a quick hot shower and left the bathroom. I lay down on the soft bed. A contented sigh escaped me. This feels wonderful. Reading at the wonderful age of 20, going out with friends in my spare time, and living happily for my own sake. Wasn't that far better than revolving my life around a woman and letting her control my mood 100 times over? Anyone who has tasted life's bitterness never wants another taste of it. That was exactly how relaxed I felt now. I turned over and thought about what I would do at school tomorrow. Before long, I drifted into a deep sleep. The next morning, when I got up and went downstairs, I saw Chu Weilin on the phone. I didn't go over and disturb her. I stood there and quietly listened for a moment. I realized she was speaking with the moving company. I turned and poured a glass of warm water. When she hung up, I immediately handed her the glass. Mom, you've worked so hard. Chu Weilin shot me a look. Perhaps she was in a fairly good mood today. She took the glass without saying anything. My eyes darted around cleverly. I raised my hands and gently kneaded her shoulders. Mom, I need to find a hospital for clinical training. Do you know anyone who works at a hospital? A doctor or anyone like that would be fine. Having someone familiar there would make everything easier. Chu Weilin narrowed her eyes halfway and clearly enjoyed my massage. My stomach bothered me constantly a few years ago. I saw a doctor at Tong Hospital. She may have been young, but her medical skills were truly impressive. After visiting her many times, we gradually became acquainted. Later, we exchanged personal contact information. We've stayed in occasional contact over the years. I can ask her about it. That's wonderful. I knew Mom had the best connections. You can make useful friends wherever you go. I now understood exactly how to deal with her. As long as I humored and coaxed her, everything was easy, no matter how proud and prickly she was. When faced with such flattering praise, she was too embarrassed to snap at me. She only glared at me and said nothing more. After a hearty breakfast, I left and took a car to school. I left earlier than usual today. When I arrived at school, I messaged Xubai. He said he'd only just woken up, so I went to the classroom first. When I entered, I found that our usual seats had already been taken. An unfamiliar girl was sitting in one of the chairs. I'd never seen her in class before. As I walked past her, I gave her a couple of curious glances. Unexpectedly, the girl suddenly looked up. Our eyes met. I awkwardly nodded at her. Hello. The girl's face was utterly cold. Without saying a word, she lowered her head again. That left me feeling more than embarrassed. I also looked like an outsider. I frowned slightly, although I felt somewhat displeased. There was no point arguing with someone so rude, so I said nothing and took a seat a little farther away. After putting down my bag, I took out my thick anatomy textbook and reviewed the material from the previous class. I'm the type who can easily focus while reading. Outside noise rarely distracts me. So, when the room grew noisy, I looked up, feeling disturbed. The classroom was already full of students. I froze in utter bewilderment. I didn't recognize a single person in the room. My mind worked quickly enough. It took me only 2 seconds to realize I'd entered the wrong classroom. I immediately gathered my books and bag and headed for the door. Isn't that Chen from the medical department? What is he doing in our class? Looks like he went to the wrong classroom. The corner of my mouth twitched. I quickened my pace. Although I'd kept a low profile since entering university, my grades were excellent, and I was fairly good looking. On top of that, Xubai praised me everywhere. It was practically impossible not to become known. I hurried out of the classroom, slightly flustered. I glanced back at the classroom number and berated myself inwardly. I'd slept well the night before and had woken up feeling refreshed. How had I still managed to go to the wrong floor? I checked my watch as I climbed the stairs. There were only 2 minutes left before class. I raced upstairs. Finally, when the shrill bell rang, I reached the classroom door. The professor at the lectern glanced at me and simply waved for me to hurry inside. Before starting the lecture, I scanned the room and found Xubai. I quickly walked over and sat beside him. Brother Chen, didn't you arrive at school ages ago? Why are you only entering the classroom now? Xubai leaned close and whispered in my ear. Don't bring it up. I went to the wrong classroom. I was too engrossed in my book to notice. I propped the thick book up on my desk to hide behind it and lowered my head, thoroughly depressed. Xubai couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. I gave him a stern look and warned him with my eyes. Seeing that I was genuinely upset, he struggled to suppress his laughter and didn't dare move again. The two of us were whispering a little too loudly. The elderly professor looked over at us and stopped lecturing to cough heavily. The other students followed his gaze. He got a taste of embarrassment too. We both instantly quieted down. Then we began listening to the professor attentively. Near the end of class, I caught sight of someone walking past outside. Although he passed by in a fleeting moment, I would recognize him even as ashes. It was Zimo. What was he doing at H University? Frowning, I stared outside for a while. The bell finally rang. I quickly packed my bag and dragged Xubai out of the classroom. I just saw Zimo. What's going on? Zimo. Xubai looked stunned. Is he back from abroad? I didn't tell him yesterday. I didn't want his overactive mind imagining all sorts of things. I was also afraid he'd insist on finding Zimo and settling the score. Ever since he learned I like Wanwan and Wanwan liked Zimo, he couldn't stand Zimo. Whenever he ran into him, he had to throw a few barbs, but with Wanwan protecting him, he never got the upper hand. Instead, he ended up stewing in frustration. If I admitted it now with a nod, he turned this place upside down looking for me. Calm down. Don't get worked up. Wanwan didn't show the slightest sign of protecting him, so don't rush off to settle the score. How can I not? You got your revenge. I have to get mine too. You know what happened back then? He said all sorts of nasty things about me, and every rumor about me going around was spread by him behind my back. He's just jealous that I come from a good family. He thinks someone like me, with my personality and lack of ambition, can still be respected and given opportunities simply because of my family. He thinks the world is unfair. Xubai was actually pretty good at reading people. His analysis of Zimo's mindset was spot on. No way. Xubai, you're impressive. I scrutinized him, as if I were seeing him for the first time. I'd really underestimated you. I thought you were just a carefree, empty-headed rich kid. Get out of here. He raised his hand, pretending to be angry, and lightly smacked my shoulder. Why are you as annoying as he is? All right. Alright, I was only joking. I clasped his hand tightly. If you were really as I described, how could you have gotten into H University? You just choose not to overthink things and have a straightforward mind. That's all. And that's actually a good thing. He loved hearing that. He pouted at me in mock indignation, then broke into a grin. You sure know what to say. I'll reluctantly forgive you for teasing me. Seeing how happy he was, I gave his shoulder a squeeze. I want to know what he's here for. Help me find out. Can't we just ask around? Xubai glanced around. He just walked past here. Let's see who knows what happened. Hey, Fanjiru, come here a moment. A girl leaning against the wall not far away glanced in our direction, then ambled over. Xubai, why did you call me? Fanjiru looked utterly sleepy. I was just dozing off. All you do is sleep. I need to ask you about someone. A man just walked down the hallway. Did you see where he went? Fanjiru opened her eyes a little wider. She was silent for a few seconds before speaking slowly. He was carrying an employment form. He must be a new teacher. He must have gone to the president's office. He's come to H University to teach. Xubai's eyes widened in disbelief. No way. He's qualified to teach. He studied abroad. Why wouldn't he be? I looked utterly disdainful. The school he attended abroad let anyone in if they had money. Who knows how much he paid back then? Now he's come back to China to teach. And he really thinks he's something, doesn't he? The more Xubai spoke, the more indignant he became. After saying that, he strode toward the stairs. Clearly, he was going to make trouble for Zimo. I hurriedly reached out and grabbed him. Xubai, don't rush. Even if we don't go looking for him, he'll come looking for us sooner or later. He turned back, confusion written all over his face. How do you know? I embarrassed him in front of Wanwan yesterday. Now that he's come to H University and become a new teacher here, he'll definitely use this chance to even the score and teach me a lesson. I slightly curved my lips. My smile was full of confidence. I understand him very well now. Xubai had always trusted me. Seeing how certain I sounded, he pursed his lips and relented. Fine, I'll listen to you and trust you this once. We'll wait for him to come to us. The next class was about to begin. I gave Fanjiru a polite smile. Thanks, we'll get back to class. Fanjiru nodded lazily, raised her hand, and patted his shoulder, then returned to her spot, leaned against the wall, and dozed off. Xubai watched her and muttered, she's really strange. She loves sleeping against walls. I wonder if she can really fall asleep like that. Either it's an incomprehensible habit, or she's doing it for a reason. I lowered my eyes to look at him, a meaningful smile on my face. Xubai, are you falling in love? Fanjiru was indeed unique. She always kept to herself at school. At first, I couldn't understand how someone so aloof had become acquainted with him. Later, I heard she was the daughter of Fan Ming, the chairman of the fan group, born outside his marriage. Fan Ming was in a serious car accident. His wife and daughter were in the car too. In the end, she was the only one who survived. When he woke, he had her brought to his bedside. The meaning was obvious. From that moment on, she began pursuing Xubai passionately and put her whole heart into it. That's why I said what I did. Why are you saying things that don't even connect? He gave me a strange look. Besides, I told you long ago, I don't want to get tangled up in romance. I want to live happily on my own. If you had someone who could love you for life, wouldn't that be more worry-free than being alone? I countered with a beaming smile. He shook his head. Forget it. I don't believe love can last that long. Even in fairy tales, the prince isn't always the same person. Seriously, I was astonished. He rolled his eyes at me. Look it up yourself if you don't believe me. All right. You're the expert. I believe you, okay? Just then, the class bell rang. I decisively ended the topic and quickly dragged him back to class. Halfway through class, he leaned over and whispered, when is he coming to find us? He'll have to wait until class ends. But then, it'll be lunch break. Under my teasing gaze, he pressed on reluctantly. But lunch break means eating. I'm hungry. He was a true food lover. He never skipped a single meal. His mouth was never idle the rest of the time, either. Once mealtime arrived, keeping him from eating was worse than anything. Then go eat. I'll wait for him alone. How can I do that? How could I leave you here alone? Am I the kind of person who abandons a friend? He said it with utmost seriousness, as if I'd actually doubted him. I knew his personality too well. So I asked, amused, have you really thought this through? Are you planning to skip lunch? He clearly hadn't. He wanted a lavish lunch. But he didn't want to leave me alone either. He wrestled with the dilemma for quite some time. Suddenly, his face lit up as he grabbed my arm. Didn't you say he'd come looking for you? Then let's go to the cafeteria. He'll come find you there. That's true. We really weren't thinking straight. We didn't know how to adapt at all. He hurriedly packed his school bag. Come on, let's go. If we're any later, my favorite dishes will be gone. I gave him a long, meaningful look. I didn't tell him that if we went to the cafeteria, he might not follow us. A man who cared so much about status and tried so hard to appear refined and impossibly distinguished wouldn't willingly visit a down-to-earth place like a school cafeteria. He wouldn't go there casually. Still, even if he didn't come looking for me, I'd find another way to deal with him later. There would be plenty of other chances. It was just a shame he couldn't vent the anger he'd held onto all these years. But I had underestimated the impact of what happened yesterday. When I saw him accompanied by a female teacher walking into the crowded cafeteria, I was briefly surprised. Then, I guessed he cared too much about it. He'd rather swallow his pride and come here than leave without making me explain everything. I bit the end of the chopsticks in my hand, my eyes curving with amusement. Xubai, turn around and see who's here. He was busy wolfing down his food and had no interest in listening to me. It wasn't until Zimo reached us that he looked up at him. At first, he didn't recognize him. Then he took another careful look before his eyes widened in realization. Long time no see. Zimo smiled with refined elegance. His face was clean-shaven and impeccably groomed. He wore a high-end suit from the latest collection and an expensive watch on his wrist. The watch alone was clearly worth a fortune. At a glance, he looked like a successful professional or a wealthy heir. Isn't that young Master Zhou, with your lofty status, isn't coming here beneath you? He immediately put down his chopsticks and stopped eating even his favorite meal. His entire demeanor instantly turned defensive. In the past, compared with me, the real husband, Zimo had targeted him even more. Just look at the contempt on his face now. Not a single word he said showed mercy. Although he never resorted to violence, their verbal clashes were fierce. Every exchange left the other person deeply uncomfortable. How could he not resent that? Zimo's expression darkened. In his haste to find me and deal with yesterday's incident, he had actually forgotten about Xubai. With Wanwan absent, this blunt man was nothing but trouble for him. The female teacher who had accompanied him heard this and gave him a peculiar look. Young man, watch your words. You're being disrespectful. Be careful not to cause unnecessary trouble. Zimo's gaze was stern, and he carried himself with authority. He really did look like a teacher. Unnecessary trouble. He let out a quiet laugh. Living abroad really has changed you. You even sound more confident than before. It isn't just confidence. You've also conveniently forgotten what happened before. Does that make my wife a stranger to you? Were all these years of friendship for nothing? I quickly chimed in from the side. That was a lot to take in. The accompanying teacher, Chen, looked extremely awkward. Teacher Zhou, are you acquainted with these two students? We do know each other. Of course, he couldn't let Teacher Chen question us further. Frowning, he deliberately explained. There was just a misunderstanding between us. That's why their words came across rather harshly. He remained perfectly composed. His careful wording left room for interpretation, revealing the steadiness of a mature man and inspiring confidence. I see. Teacher Chen smiled again. Her tone held a hint of defense. I knew Teacher Zhou wouldn't be that kind of person. He was dignified in appearance and impeccable in manner. Zimo was undeniably attractive and deliberately maintained his poise. If he casually walked around the school, he might not receive everyone's attention, but he would certainly catch the eye of many single female teachers and leave a very favorable impression. Teacher Chen was naturally one of them. Xubai chuckled softly, though his smile never reached his eyes. Zimo, don't you feel guilty hearing that? Of course. Someone with strong nerves wouldn't show it. The two of us worked together seamlessly, each word striking directly at his sore spots. Zimo's expression shifted repeatedly. To fist can hardly beat for hands. No matter how eloquent he was still outnumbered. He drew a deep breath and turned to Teacher Chen. His tone held a trace of apology. Teacher Chen, thank you for bringing me here today. It's getting late, so please go have lunch. I'll handle things here myself. I really don't mind at all. After saying that, he walked to the empty seat beside me and looked ready to sit down for a long conversation. Teacher Chen hurriedly reached out and grabbed him. She said with concern, Teacher Zhou, what are you planning to do sitting here? Listen to them keep saying things like that. She looked disapprovingly at Xubai and me, obvious displeasure on her face. Which major are you students in? This is the new pharmacy teacher. You should know how to respect your teachers. I didn't even look at her. I simply gave Zimo a faint smile. With Wanwan absent, he planned to use Teacher Chen as a shield. I saw through that plan perfectly. He really was used to relying on others. We're clinical medicine students. You don't teach clinical medicine, do you? Then you're not responsible for us. Xubai had always been independent-minded. He never liked others telling him what to do. He certainly wouldn't defer to her, simply because she was a teacher. So he had to make his position clear. I absolutely wasn't going to compromise. Teacher Chen couldn't criticize us any further. She was afraid we'd say something even more embarrassing and put him in an even more awkward position. So, she gently advised Zimo, Teacher Zhou, they're young and hot-tempered. Don't take their words to heart, especially as a new teacher like you. There's no need to argue with students. What kind of teacher is he, anyway? My smile grew meaningful. Did he get the job through connections? Or through some other back door? I warned you. Watch your words. Zimo became genuinely serious. His tone turned grave. As Teacher Chen said, I am, after all, a teacher at this school. I expect basic respect. I shrugged indifferently. The smile on my face remained relaxed. I was only asking out of curiosity. I never said that was the case. You don't need to be so nervous. How could he not be nervous? If he acted as though he didn't care, how could he convince others that he was genuinely qualified? Xubai rested his chin in his hands and looked at her. Teacher Chen, isn't that right? You two are utterly unreasonable. You're incredibly rude to a teacher. I really don't know how students with such terrible attitudes manage to get into H Medical University. You're simply letting the school down. Xubai turned to look at me. Meow. He playfully imitated a cat's meow. I instantly understood what he meant. The two of us chuckled softly together. Wasn't this blatant defense of him? Zimo really was attractive. He won people's favor wherever he went, and they defended him wholeheartedly. But it wasn't strange when I thought about it. After all, his appearance and manner were undeniably appealing. People with a past always tried desperately to hide it from those who knew the truth. If it had only been me, he might have managed. But with the outspoken Xubai added to the mix, none of his explanations could sound convincing. I had intended to clear up the misunderstanding between us, so we could remain on friendly terms. Since you don't want to have a proper conversation, I have nothing more to say. I've said everything I needed to say. I hope you'll both act more maturely in the future. Zimo stood and said coldly, Teacher Zhou, you've gone to a lot of trouble. Seeing the concern on Teacher Chen's face, he felt it was entirely unnecessary. So he spoke bluntly. Teacher Chen, the polished-looking teacher in front of you, has actually led a rather unusual life. Everything he is wearing is extremely expensive, far beyond what ordinary people could imagine. The watch on his wrist is even rarer. I'll tell you the brand. Look it up when you get home, and you'll understand. Do you still think we're the ones picking a fight? We're only stating the facts. I continued calmly, smiling. Teacher Chen's expression changed instantly. We had made everything so clear. If she still blindly took his side, she was either naive or blinded by appearances. She really needed to wake up. Teacher Chen had only just met him, and merely had a good impression of him. She didn't truly know him. So she glanced at Zimo, and left without saying a word. Zimo looked slightly uncomfortable. He stood there silently for a while. Teacher Zhou, I know you wanted to talk to me about what happened yesterday, and explain yourself, but you should consider the circumstances. You should have checked who was here before coming. After all, he knows how to put anyone who won't behave in their place. I teased him with a broad smile. Of course, I won't back down easily now either. He just hasn't fully accepted it yet. I have no reason to hide from him. You call him someone who puts everyone in their place. Aren't you exaggerating a little? Zimo said, suppressing his emotions. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'll be working at H University from now on. We'll inevitably run into each other on campus. I just thought it was necessary to say hello. What exactly do you teach? I'm genuinely curious. Let me ask you this. Did you specialize in medicine while abroad? His face was full of doubt. He stared at him, waiting for an answer. Zimo's expression shifted slightly. I quickly composed myself. My tone was utterly calm. I have a pharmacist license. That qualifies me to teach pharmacy. He didn't answer Xubai directly. Xubai genuinely admired him for that. Even though he was clearly in the wrong and had no confidence, he could still remain so composed. Don't you think your desperate excuses make you look like a clown? I lowered my eyes to glance at my watch. If I were you, I'd leave now and save myself some dignity. Instead of waiting until lunch was over, let's go. As soon as I finished speaking, I stood and nodded toward Xubai, signaling for him to leave with me. We walked side by side and strode away right in front of Zimo. Zimo remained where he stood, furiously glaring at our retreating backs. He was so angry that he ground his teeth. I used to be timid in front of him, never daring to provoke him. A lot could happen in 5 years and change a person. He wasn't surprised that I had changed, but he still couldn't accept it so soon. The young master who once had to watch his every mood now suddenly dared to give him the same treatment, especially when faced with my mocking gaze. He simply couldn't remain calm. He didn't want me to realize that I could hold my head high and live without fear or restraint, just like Xubai. Zimo squeezed his eyes shut, then hurried out of the cafeteria. Xubai and I had finally vented our frustration and felt exceptionally refreshed. After afternoon classes ended, I turned down Xubai's invitation again and went straight to the hospital. Wanwan had once been a workaholic. She rarely spent time lying in bed. Now she had to remain in bed all day. Her misery was easy to imagine. I was in high spirits and entered the hospital room with a broad smile. Compared with Wanwan's cold expression, the contrast was striking. Who are you making that sour face for? Just don't make me look at it. Otherwise, I'll leave right now. I thought to myself. Lin Wanwan had intended to give me the cold shoulder, but she took a deep breath and forced herself to ask in a gentle tone, "Are you done with school?" I nodded expressionlessly. Wasn't that obvious? Could I be here if school weren't over? It looked like the accident had really damaged her brain. Lin Wanwan fell silent for several seconds. She felt she had grown stupid lying in that hospital bed. She was irritated and wanted to lose her temper, but she couldn't take it out on me. If I left in a fit of anger, she would have to deal with that caregiver she disliked. It must have been a coincidence. Still, this woman was truly frightening. People who weren't guarded around her seemed completely transparent before her. I didn't think so. I folded my arms across my chest and silently watched the woman before me. I still wasn't skilled enough. You had your accident too soon. Give me another 2 years, and I should be ready. Lin Wanwan gave a cold laugh. I never realized you had such a sharp tongue. I used to be clueless, practically no different from an idiot. Now that I've wised up, I seem much sharper. I let out a cold laugh. My sharp tongue came straight from Chu Weilin. No one could get the better of me in an argument. Neither Zhou Zimo nor Lin Wanwan was a match for me. Neither of us said anything after that. The room sank into deathly silence until when Xiuzhen arrived and broke it. "Sweetheart, I know you don't have much appetite for porridge, so I added chicken to it today. Could you have a little more?" Unlike her usual habit of picking a fight whenever she saw me, when Xiuzhen acted as though she didn't see me today. Only after pouring the porridge into the bowl and scooping some up did she give me a cold glance. Some people make pretty promises about what they'll do, but when the time comes to act, they can't follow through at all. As soon as she finished speaking, she gave a few mocking laughs. I laughed along with her, though my laugh was deliberately simple and good-natured. "Who are you being sarcastic about?" As long as I pretended not to understand, then you couldn't be talking about me, so I simply refused to engage, just to see how uncomfortable it made you. Lin Wanwan glanced at me from the hospital bed. A faint hint of amusement flickered in her eyes when she saw me merely grinning foolishly without replying. When Xiuzhen complained angrily, "What terrible luck. How could it not be terrible luck when your daughter got into an accident? Can you stop mentioning the accident?" When Xiuzhen shouted furiously, her beloved daughter had suffered. It broke her heart. She couldn't bear to hear those words. "Fine," I mimed, zipping my lips. That only made me look even more infuriating. When Xiuzhen took several deep breaths, barely suppressing her anger, she grabbed my hand and shoved the bowl into it. "Take good care of my daughter. You said it yourself. You'd look after her until she was discharged. You aren't allowed to go home tonight either." I lowered my eyes to the bowl in my hands. A sly glint flashed in my eyes. "But I have school." "School?" When Xiuzhen's expression changed. "Didn't you drop out? Wasn't it you who told me to get divorced? What else could I do after getting divorced but return to school?" Fortunately, my grades were excellent. My academic advisor didn't want to lose a student like me, so she never submitted my withdrawal application. That's why I was able to return and continue my studies. Otherwise, someone would have ruined my life. Lin Wanwan hated people interfering, especially elders meddling in relationships and marriages. I said this to twist the knife in when Xiuzhen's wound, while shamelessly praising myself. It was also a sarcastic counterattack, just as I thought. Lin Wanwan's expression immediately darkened. She looked at Wen Xiuzhen with a gloomy stare. When Xiuzhen guiltily looked away, then she stiffened her neck and retorted, "I wasn't the one who made you to divorce. He was the one who brought it up first." As soon as she finished speaking, she glared at me angrily. "How can you make up such lies?" I shrugged indifferently. Then I spoke with a calm smile. "Maybe I remembered it wrong." As if I had remembered it wrong. I had clearly said it on purpose. Regardless of what had really happened, I was giving Wen Xiuzhen a way to save face. Although Wen Xiuzhen was still unhappy, her expression softened considerably. "You stay here tonight and take care of Wanwan. She can't move right now. I don't feel comfortable leaving her in someone else's care." When Xiuzhen pointed at the bowl in my hands, "I still have some things to take care of. Feed Wanwan the porridge." That sounded wonderfully reasonable. She supposedly didn't trust anyone else to care for her. If she was so worried, why didn't she do it herself? Put simply, she just wanted to make my life difficult, deliberately refusing to let me enjoy any peace. I was the one she should have trusted least. Who knew? One day, if I happened to be in a bad mood, I might settle the score with your daughter. This time, Lin Wanwan couldn't laugh. She really was in danger now. This was no joke. Without changing expression, I held the spoon and turned to Lin Wanwan. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of her." I placed heavy emphasis on the words "take good care." Lin Wanwan's eyes darkened slightly. Her entire face was filled with warning. I quickly looked away and pretended not to notice anything, seeing that I no longer argued. When Xiuzhen said nothing more, she turned, picked up her bag, and left. As she left, she deliberately told Zhu Jiaqi by the door, "Tell me if he leaves." I couldn't leave today, even if I wanted to. If I left now, I'd be humiliating Wen Xiuzhen completely. She'd go completely insane. After Wen Xiuzhen had gone far enough, I patiently fed Lin Wanwan the porridge. Neither of us said a word during that time. The hospital room was utterly silent. I noticed that she kept her eyes lowered. Then she suddenly lifted them, then looked behind me. I turned around, completely puzzled. The woman standing behind me was tall and slender. She was standing extremely close. It felt like I was facing a wall. She startled me. I frowned and looked up into a carefree, insolent face. I knew this woman very well. She was Lin Wanwan's cousin, the daughter of Wen Xiuzhen's younger brother. Her name was Muyulu. In the past, Muyulu had hated me just as much as Lin Wanwan did. She simply thought I wasn't good enough for the cousin she idolized. Whenever she saw me, she always mocked me mercilessly. If it had only been verbal insults, that would have been fine. I could simply have ignored her. They couldn't cause me any real harm. But Muyulu was malicious. She often tripped me up behind my back. That was why I detested her. How could I have forgotten her? I had suffered plenty at her hands before. When I had the time, I would have to teach her a lesson. Lin Wanwan heard my thoughts. She looked at Muyulu with displeasure. Her cousin had been unpleasant since childhood. Not only was she petty and vindictive, she picked on anyone she took a dislike to. Even if they had never offended her, she would still find a way to torment them. She was simply rotten to the core. If I had gone through all that, Muyulu must have bullied me plenty. You'd better rein yourself in. Lin Wanwan warned her coldly. Those were the first words she said upon seeing Muyulu. They sounded completely inexplicable to me, but Muyulu understood what she meant. She raised her brows in surprise. She found it unbelievable. Didn't cousin always hate me? Why was she suddenly defending me? I didn't want to provoke Muyulu directly. I placed the bowl on the bedside table and stood up, moving aside. Lin Wanwan looked displeased. She spoke coldly. I haven't finished my porridge. Eating less at night is better for you. I gave her a faint smile. Before Lin Wanwan could say anything, Muyulu sneered from the side. I think you're afraid of me. That's why you don't dare stay here. You're both right and wrong. Haven't you noticed that whenever I run into you at school, I take a detour? I'm afraid your temper is too explosive. I wasn't exactly blessed with a long life. If your temper ever got the better of me, I might end up dead. I spoke while giving her a slight bow. My attitude looked extremely ingratiating, but my words were anything but flattering. Muyulu's face darkened. Whenever she bullied me in the past, I hadn't dared to say a word back. Now, for the first time, she was facing my retaliation. It made her extraordinarily furious. Chen, don't think marrying my cousin means you can rise to the top overnight and look down on anyone. In my eyes, you're nothing. You're absolutely nothing. Muyulu had always been vicious with her words. I had heard too many such insults and was completely immune to them. My expression shifted slightly, but I kept smiling. You're overthinking it. I've always known exactly who I am. You really didn't need to go out of your way to remind me. My words sounded pleasant at first, but they were deeply irritating. She wanted to lose her temper, but getting angry would make her look petty. Muyulu was thoroughly disgusted. The best way to deal with someone like her was to fight fire with fire. Unfortunately, Muyulu didn't understand that. You look like you've been living it comfortably. Muyulu charged toward me. Her expression was ferocious. If I don't teach you a proper lesson today, I'll write my name backward. My expression remained utterly calm. I wasn't frightened in the slightest. I didn't even move from the spot. What a foolish child. If she made a scene and it ended up in the news, wouldn't it be her family? And even the Lin family caught in the scandal. Their company's stock would fall as a result. And who knew how great the losses would be? Go ahead and hit me. Stop dragging your feet. Lin Wanwan's expression instantly darkened. She shouted sternly, Muyulu, are you pretending I don't exist? Muyulu stopped in her tracks. She turned around and complained, sounding slightly aggrieved. He said such awful things. Which of you is actually saying awful things? Lin Wanwan found it both amusing and exasperating. She fixed Muyulu with a stern look. That still doesn't give you the right to hit someone. I never planned to hit him. Even with my bad temper, I wouldn't just hit someone for no reason. Oh. So you do have principles. I clicked my tongue in exaggerated disappointment. Then I continued, my face full of provocation. If you weren't planning to hit me, why did you come storming over here? You wouldn't happen to be coming over to give me a massage, would you? Chen. Muyulu's eyes turned red. She was practically furious enough to lose her mind. No one had ever infuriated her like this. Everything had a first time, but she wished it hadn't been Chen. Why was the man who had once kept his head down, now not only holding his head high, but dealing her such a crushing blow? The more Muyulu thought about it, the worse she felt. I'm right here. You don't have to shout my name so loudly. I reached up and casually scratched my ear. That only made me look even more infuriating. Chen, I don't know what got into you, but I'm not my cousin. You'd better watch yourself. Muyulu warned through clenched teeth. Are you threatening me? I raised a brow. Please don't. I'm genuinely terrified. A brat like you who begs to be hit. Was I not supposed to call you that? I'm truly sorry. That was just a slip of the tongue. Please be the bigger person, and don't take it to heart. Are you about to lose your mind with rage? If you've got the nerve, come hit me. She had never encountered anyone like this in her life. He was actually begging to be hit. Chen either had something wrong with his head, or something seriously wrong with him. What normal person would think like that? Yulu was genuinely close to losing her mind with rage. Her fist clenched and unclenched several times. Her face clearly said she desperately wanted to punch him. But no matter what, she knew she shouldn't hit someone recklessly, especially not in front of Wanwan. So the anger trapped in her chest, and the fire burning in her gut, had nowhere to go. Her misery was easy to imagine. When I saw her merely glaring viciously at me, without the slightest intention of striking, I knew provoking her further would be pointless. I immediately lost interest. I turned and walked over to the water dispenser. It seemed I'd have to find another way. I had to teach her a lesson she would never forget, so she wouldn't dare provoke me again. Ideally, she'd take a detour the moment she saw me, listening to my thoughts. Wanwan's expression grew even darker. Yulu, don't provoke him again. Yulu stared at her wide-eyed. You're actually still defending him? I don't care. He humiliated me like this today. I have to make him pay. I'm afraid you'll be the one who pays. Wanwan let out an almost inaudible sigh. She said nothing more. Perhaps that was true. This cousin really did need to learn a lesson. Her body still hurt from time to time. She had no energy to think about this mess. She closed her eyes and spoke quietly. Go home. I need to rest. Cousin, I'll leave right away. But I have a few questions first. Yulu put away her anger and sat smiling in the chair. Wanwan opened one eye and looked at her. What is it? Has brother Zimo come back? I was standing beside the water dispenser, drinking water, when I suddenly froze. I looked over immediately. My ears perked up. If that's all, go home. Wanwan looked deeply displeased. Rather than believing cousin had fallen for Chen, Yulu was more convinced she was merely throwing a tantrum. So she lowered her head and earnestly tried to persuade her. Cousin, brother Zimo is proud. And when grandpa made you marry someone back then, he was bound to resent it. It's only natural that he would be upset with you. He's finally returned to the country. You can't keep being upset with him. What if he goes abroad for years and doesn't come back? You'll regret it then. Exactly. If he goes abroad for another 5 years, the child your cousin and I have could call him uncle by then. My cutting retort successfully turned both their faces livid. They looked utterly furious. How could someone say things so vicious? It was a miracle Chen had never been beaten. Why is everyone staring at me? I blinked innocently. Was I wrong? You want to have children with my cousin? You certainly don't look like much, but you have quite the imagination. Yulu's face was covered in contempt. This isn't wishful thinking. Your cousin and I are legally married. Think about it. We share a room every day and sleep in the same bed at night. Sooner or later, we'll have a child, unless your cousin is incapable of having one. As soon as I finished speaking, I turned to look at Wanwan with an ambiguous smile. Wanwan felt thoroughly humiliated. A faint blush appeared on her face. It wasn't from embarrassment. I had simply infuriated her. Have you forgotten one possibility? Wanwan's beautiful face turned icy. I raised a brow. What possibility? That she won't sleep with me. I can see right through your little schemes. How can I get rid of this ability to hear people's thoughts? She feared that if it didn't disappear, she'd lose 10 years of her life during this hospital stay. All of you, get out. Wanwan closed her eyes warily. I need to rest. Cousin, you and brother Zimo. Can't you hear what I'm saying? Wanwan suddenly opened both eyes. Her icy glare was terrifying. My love life is none of your business. Get your own life in order first. Anyone who knew Wanwan understood that she didn't want to hear another word. Although Yulu was reluctant to leave, she wisely chose to go. After she had gone some distance, I pretended nothing had happened. I calmly walked into the bathroom. When I came back out, my face was still wet. It was obvious I had just washed it. I was still quite young, with soft, youthful skin, and with my fair complexion, my sharply defined face looked under the light like a peeled egg. It made people want to pinch it just to see how soft it was. Wanwan stared intently at me. Her eyes were deep and unreadable. This vibrant young man had once loved her with every fiber of his being, with complete devotion. Yet she cast that love aside like a worn-out shoe. She couldn't imagine what I had endured, or how she had treated me, enough to make her hear such anguish from me in the dead of night. Wanwan's feelings were terribly complicated, but I didn't have the energy for any of that. All I wanted was a good night's sleep, so I could be rested and attend class tomorrow. I climbed into bed and pulled up the covers. I didn't look at Wanwan once. I treated her as if she weren't there. A hint of displeasure flickered in Wanwan's eyes. She gave a soft cough, trying to get my attention. I decided to humor her. I turned to look at her. What is it? Is your throat bothering you? Wanwan coughed several more times. Pour me some water. I had only just lain down and really didn't want to get back up, but I had no choice. I climbed out of bed, thoroughly unwilling. After pouring a glass and returning, I gave her the water rather roughly. It could hardly be called helping her drink. I was practically forcing it down her throat. Cough, cough, cough. You Chen. Finally, after my tireless efforts, Wanwan's defenses completely collapsed. She choked and began coughing violently. Sorry, I was too tired. I got a little distracted. There wasn't a shred of sincerity in that apology. My face practically said, I did it on purpose. That's what you get for deliberately tormenting me. Let's see if you dare do it again. Cough, forget it. My unspoken thoughts were downright vicious. Wanwan was furious. She was just about to scold me when she suddenly noticed something. She froze in place. A few seconds later, she laughed in sheer fury. Chen, what are you doing with my face towel? I glanced at the pale blue towel hanging from the doorknob and answered carelessly, wiping my feet. That towel is for your face. The nurse's aide has used it to wipe her face every day these past few days. She knew it all too well. Oh, I put on an exaggerated look of surprise. I had no idea. When I stayed here a few days ago, I used it to wipe my feet too. Don't tell me you. I covered my mouth before finishing, then looked at her with disgust and pity. Wanwan said nothing. She only stared at me coldly. After who knew how long, the corners of her lips slowly lifted. She let out an unreadable laugh. I wondered if she'd been driven mad with anger. If I had truly pushed her over the edge, and she got up to deal with me, I'd be in trouble. Maybe I should tone it down. Well, I was only joking. Don't take it seriously. Wanwan didn't believe a word of my nonsense. With a dark expression, she shouted, Zhou, come in. My expression instantly tightened. I had a bad feeling. That woman was definitely up to no good. Zhou had been standing outside the door the whole time. Hearing her, she pushed open the door and entered. Her gaze swept across my face, and a faint smile flickered in her eyes. Miss Lin. Zhou walked to the bedside and stopped. She bent slightly at the waist. What would you like me to do? Starting today, keep an eye on the man behind me. Don't let him take even one step outside the hospital. I bristled the moment I heard that. I demanded harshly, what gives you the right to restrict my freedom? The fact that I'm your legal wife. Wanwan let out a cold laugh. Even if I weren't, I don't want you leaving this hospital. What are you going to do about it? I was so angry I couldn't speak. Throwing your power around to bully people is no fun. Can't take it when someone fights back. It was the first time she'd ever seen me at a loss for words. Her mood improved considerably. When will you learn to behave? I'll let you leave. Otherwise, wait until I'm discharged and leave with me. I narrowed my eyes at Wanwan. How had I ever been blind enough to fall for her? Was it simply because she was beautiful? Before my rebirth, I hadn't thought so. But now, it seemed that was probably the reason. Once the rose-colored glasses came off, I realized that aside from her looks, she was completely useless. After hearing my thoughts, Wanwan's eyes dimmed. She understood that I hated her now. She knew this approach would only make me hate her more. But I was like a hedgehog, protecting my fragile heart behind a wall of spines. Anyone who touched me got pricked. My entire body bristled with hostility. She had already tried taking a gentler approach. I refused to have a proper conversation with her, so this was the only option left to her. She would keep me by her side first and stop me from running off. She would take it slowly, easing me into submission. Sooner or later, I'd calm down and talk to her. Fine, you win. What else could I do? I could only sit back down on the bed and completely give up resisting. Then I won't go to school. I'll stay here and take care of you. I looked at Wanwan, then tilted my head and added with a smile, I guarantee I'll take excellent care of you. You'll leave the hospital as if you'd never been in an accident. The sarcasm was unmistakable. Even Wanwan couldn't possibly miss it. Yet her expression didn't change. She merely nodded. Good. I hope you mean it. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about anything. Wanwan couldn't read my thoughts either, so she said nothing more. I lay back down on the bed. I turned toward the wall and silently ground my teeth. Damn woman. So, you're imprisoning me? Then just watch what I do. You won't have an easy time until I'm discharged. You once trapped me and harmed me. This time, I won't let you control me. Wanwan frowned as she listened to my thoughts. Being in prison once cost me my life. Where had I been imprisoned? Wanwan kept listening, carrying that question with her. But she learned nothing useful. She tilted her head toward the other bed and saw that I had turned around at some point to face her. My eyes were closed, and I was already drifting off. She gritted her teeth hard. She wondered what I had gone through until her head began to ache. Meanwhile, I fell straight asleep. I really had a thick skin. Wanwan stood in silence for a long while before closing her eyes and falling asleep. The night passed without dreams. When I woke up in the morning, Wanwan was still asleep. I glanced at the phone on the nightstand and picked it up, switching it on. Please take my song back home with you. Please leave your smile behind. Tomorrow. The children's song echoed through the hospital room. Wanwan frowned in her sleep and quickly opened her eyes. She glared at me furiously. What are you doing? Listening to music. I smiled brightly. I have a habit of listening to music when I wake up. I'm terribly sorry. I must have disturbed you. You knew it would disturb me, and you still played it. Wanwan hated that she couldn't move. Otherwise, she'd have gotten up and strangled me. I shrugged indifferently. I usually wake up alone. I forgot you were here for a moment. Lin Wanwan took a deep breath. A whole person was lying right across from me, yet I could still say something like that. That's right. I did it on purpose. Turn it off. Lin Wanwan ordered coldly. Since you're already awake, why should I turn it off? Listen with me for a while. Music lifts your spirits. A better mood helps the body recover faster. I'm doing this for your own good. If Lin Wanwan couldn't hear my thoughts, she might actually believe that nonsense. This man was taking revenge because I wouldn't let him leave the hospital. In his head, he was cursing her out. I have plenty of time to teach you a lesson. Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. We'll see who can hold out longer. My gaze turned sharp. I didn't want to talk anymore. Is threatening me all you know how to do? Lin Wanwan curled her lips. Never mind whether she can do anything else. As long as this worked and kept me quiet, that was enough. Zhu Jiaqi brought meals every morning at exactly 7. As soon as the time came, Zhu Jiaqi knocked on the door. Lin Wanwan looked toward the hospital room door. Come in. The moment the words left her mouth, the door was gently pushed open. Zhu Jiaqi placed the insulated meal container on the nightstand. Then she leaned down slightly and said to Lin Wanwan, Miss Lin, there's a document you need to look over. Lin Wanwan nodded calmly. I stared at Zhu Jiaqi and asked curiously, are you the one standing guard outside every day? Don't you ever need to rest? I'm not on guard the entire time. My colleagues take shifts with me. After opening the document, Zhu Jiaqi turned and answered softly, what a coincidence. You're here every time I come by. My smile grew sweeter. In the sunlight, I looked handsome and captivating. Lin Wanwan glanced at me and felt somewhat uncomfortable, but she said nothing more. Zhu Jiaqi held the document. Lin Wanwan nodded after finishing each page. Zhu Jiaqi turned the page accordingly. They finished reviewing the document quickly. Sign it on my behalf. Lin Wanwan said flatly. Yes. Zhu Jiaqi closed the document and was about to turn and leave. I tilted my head back to look at her. Have you had breakfast? I have. Zhu Jiaqi paused, then added politely. Thank you for your concern, sir. I smiled and said nothing more. Zhu Jiaqi, what are you standing there for? Lin Wanwan looked at us displeasedly. Zhu Jiaqi didn't dare linger. She nodded at me and left the room. Why are you being so hostile? I felt sorry for Zhu Jiaqi. Having a boss like that. Lin Wanwan laughed. I had angered her into laughing. From my perspective, her sudden laughter was genuinely terrifying. I turned away with disgust written across my face. Lin Wanwan was furious. She announced coldly, Mu Chen, from now on, you will focus on taking care of me. If I'm not satisfied, I absolutely won't leave the hospital. You're no fun. My expression darkened. Zimo is back in the country. Why don't you hurry up and have him take care of you? Why are you insisting on clinging to me? Lin Wanwan sneered. Because I feel like it. A mocking smile spread across my face. I think you just can't bear to burden him. Could you be any more pretentious? So, Zimo is the only one who counts as human. I'm not even a person, am I? Lin Wanwan had to admit that it would definitely infuriate her, but she didn't want me to hate her even more. So she slowly shook her head. I think you're more useful. What do you mean? I'm more useful. My expression was indescribable. Lin Wanwan, did the doctor say there's something wrong with your head? If there isn't, then I think they may have misdiagnosed you. You can rest assured, there's nothing wrong with my head. Lin Wanwan curled her lips into a smile. It's more than good enough to teach you a lesson. Lin Wanwan had long, narrow eyes. When she wasn't smiling, she seemed icy and thoroughly untouchable. But when she smiled, she became alluring and exceptionally captivating. Back then, I fell in love with her at first sight because of that smile. Whenever I saw Lin Wanwan, I hoped she would smile at me. Unfortunately, Lin Wanwan rarely smiled. And when she did, she only smiled at Zimo. She always wore a cold expression around me. That's why I hated her smile now. That smile had dragged me into misery and left me beyond redemption. My mood suddenly sank. I looked away and said coldly, whatever. I'm going to wash up. With that, I turned and hurried into the bathroom. I shut the door and stood at the sink. I turned on the tap and set it to cold. Then I splashed a handful of water onto my face. The wounds from my past ran deep. Even though I had moved on, the pain had been real. It couldn't simply disappear. It would take a lifetime to heal. I couldn't go on like this. I had to keep a safe distance. I couldn't let her affect me again. I would endure it until she was discharged. From then on, she could take the easy road, and I would take the hard one. We would never interfere with each other again. Once I had made up my mind, I finished washing up and left the bathroom. I went to the nightstand and opened the insulated meal container expressionlessly. I was ready to feed Lin Wanwan. Everything I had thought about in the bathroom had been heard by Lin Wanwan. She stared at me with mixed emotions. She wanted to say something, but with me resisting her so fiercely, there was truly nothing she could say. After thinking it over, she chose silence. I stuck firmly to my decision. I quietly fed Lin Wanwan. I didn't say a word. The two of us sank into an eerie silence. Neither of us showed any intention of breaking it. After feeding Lin Wanwan, I opened the other meal container and began eating. When I finished, I looked at Lin Wanwan and said calmly, I can't stay away from school for too long. You'll take care of it for me, right? Lin Wanwan nodded. I'll have Zhu Jiaqi speak to them. This was a trivial matter for her. A single word from her would be enough. That was the advantage of having money and power. It could solve 99% of life's problems. The rest came down to not having enough money or power. Thanks. I rose from my chair. I'll find the nurse and get the medicine. The nurse will come by herself later. He took a step back and asked with a frown, What do you want? Don't you know how to address people respectfully? Zhu let out a mocking laugh. He looked at me with utter disdain. Even without saying anything, I understood exactly what he meant. As if you deserved that. I raised my hand and pinched the name tag on his chest. Zhu loser. My name is Zhu Hua. Zhu Hua slapped my hand away. I never thought someone admitted to H University couldn't read. I truly worry about your future patients. I hope you're one of them. I shot back with a grin. Zhu Hua's gaze turned cold. He waved irritably, as though swatting away a fly. If there's nothing else, leave. Don't disturb me while I'm working. This is you working. I opened my mouth in astonishment. Are you the janitor? I looked around with utter confusion. Where are your cleaning tools? Chen. Zhu Hua shouted my name in anger. If you're sick, hurry to psychiatry. I don't have time to argue with you. Who do you think is as idle as you? Do you think everyone has a good temper? My expression suddenly turned severe. My aura surged instantly. You're only my wife's secretary. What gives you the right to act so arrogantly? Are you my wife's lover? Is that why you're so bold? Mr. Mo, watch what you say. There is nothing between President Lin and me. I won't tolerate your slander. Zhu Hua's face was filled with fury. So you're just fearless, aren't you? I let out a cold laugh and leaned close to his ear. I admire your courage. Too bad I don't like it. Know your place. Show me some respect from now on. Otherwise, I'll throw you out of the company and make sure you can never stay by President Lin's side again. Zhu Hua's expression changed instantly. I stepped back and resumed my cheerful smile. I'm not bluffing. Zhu Hua took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. I work for President Lin. What right do you have to decide whether I stay or go? If you don't believe me, try it. I may not have the authority, but I have the ability. With that, I walked away without looking back. I could tolerate Lin Wanwan and Zhou Zimo, but a nobody like Zhu Hua wasn't worth tolerating. Anyone who dared make trouble for me would pay for it. Once outside, I had no intention of finding the nurse. I went downstairs to buy a can of coffee. Then I sat facing the entrance. I drank water while watching outside. I wondered whether Lin Wanwan had people outside. I had barely gotten halfway to my feet when I sat back down. There probably were. Since Lin Wanwan had given the order, Zhu Jiaqi would certainly enforce it strictly. But being trapped in the hospital like this left me deeply annoyed. I finished the rest of my coffee in one gulp, crushed the can, and headed for the entrance. Even if someone was guarding the door, I had to test it myself. Once I tried, I could finally give up hope. That would save me from constantly dwelling on it. Sir, please go back, just as I expected. Before I could even step outside, a man appeared and blocked my way. I silently pulled my foot back. I gave him a forced smile and said, You're certainly dedicated. Keep up the good work. You're too kind, sir. You really think I was complimenting you? A ball of frustration formed in my chest. I couldn't swallow it down or vent it. It was agonizing. I stood there for a long while before finally leaving. When I passed a trash can, I hurled the coffee can into it. I went upstairs and entered Lin Wanwan's room. A nurse was changing her dressings. I glanced over her body and slightly furrowed my brow. Injuries like these would certainly leave scars. I didn't know whether she would fully recover. Why was I thinking about all this nonsense? What did it matter to me whether she had scars? There really had to be something wrong with my head. Maybe I simply thought her face was truly breathtaking. It was like a perfect work of art. It would be a shame to leave a blemish on it. That thought made me feel a little better. The coffee had made me a little thirsty. I went to the water dispenser and poured myself a glass. The nurse turned her head and sized me up. Our eyes happened to meet. I gave her an awkward grin and couldn't resist being mouthy again. Is my wife, at least in name, beautiful? The nurse stared at me, completely dumbfounded. A few seconds later, she finally nodded blankly. You can have her. Don't mention it. You're quite the joker, sir. The nurse was extremely embarrassed. I realized I had said too much. I quickly shut my mouth and said no more. I set down the glass and lay on the sofa. Lin Wanwan opened her eyes and stared at the nurse. Hurry up? Her tone sounded extremely impatient. The nurse immediately sped up. She was clearly moving at more than 3 times her previous speed. After changing all the dressings, the nurse fled the room. Look how terrified I made that poor girl. I was the only one bold enough back then not to be scared off by this terrifying woman. Otherwise, who would dare fall for her? Anyone living with her would be terrified. Veins bulged on Lin Wanwan's forehead. I didn't know whether Zhou Zimo truly loved her, or was using her as a tool to change his fate. If it was the latter, all I could say was that her life was tragic, and she had brought it on herself. Chen. The woman's harsh voice startled me. I shot upright on the sofa. I stared at her, utterly bewildered. Why are you suddenly shouting my name? Lin Wanwan couldn't exactly say she had heard my thoughts, but blowing up at me without saying anything looked like nothing but a tantrum to me. It was completely ridiculous. She looked like a hot-tempered lunatic. I was so aggrieved that my face reddened. Do you need something or not? I already thought she was utterly unreasonable. Lin Wanwan swallowed her anger unwillingly. I looked at her with open disgust. She was seriously sick. I didn't want to deal with this woman anymore. I turned over and lay back down. Over the next few days, I endured whatever I could. I didn't say a single unnecessary word. Lin Wanwan seemed to understand what I was thinking and stopped trying to talk to me. It wasn't until Lin Wanwan could move around again that I began to feel uneasy. The thorns of my defenses rose all over again. Whenever I got the chance, I deliberately provoked her. That was actually what she wanted to see. At least I was willing to talk to her, as long as we still communicated. Even hostile exchanges were a good sign. It meant there was still a chance to break the deadlock. Otherwise, if we continued that Cold War, we might spend the rest of our lives like that. On the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, the doctor said Lin Wanwan could get out of bed with crutches. When Xiuzhen was delighted when she heard. She came to the hospital first thing in the morning. She was in a good mood, so she didn't make sarcastic remarks when she saw me, though she still didn't look particularly pleased. I didn't care in the slightest. I handed her a peeled apple. I said casually, "It's the Mid-Autumn Festival today. You have to let me go home for the holiday." Fine. Lin Wanwan had already planned to let me leave, so she agreed without hesitation. I was going crazy being cooped up here. The moment she agreed, I turned and left. I strode away at top speed, as if someone were chasing me. After I left the room, when Xiuzhen withdrew her gaze and asked Lin Wanwan solemnly, "Daughter, I'm not trying to interfere in your love life. I just want to know what you're thinking now." Lin Wanwan raised her eyes. "What? Are you no longer planning to divorce Chen?" "Not for now." When Xiuzhen wasn't surprised by that answer, she wasn't stupid. How could she fail to notice during this time that her daughter had taken an interest in Chen? What she couldn't understand was that her daughter had clearly hated him before. How had her attitude suddenly changed? Besides, wasn't Zimo the man she liked? If you don't want a divorce, then don't get one. When Xiuzhen hesitated before continuing, "But I really don't like him. I don't like that Zimo either. If possible, you'd be better off finding someone from a suitable family who can help you in your career." Lin Wanwan knew she was going to say this. A dark look crossed her face. "It's not as though I'm a useless failure who needs a man's help to accomplish anything in my career. That's not what I meant. I just..." When Xiuzhen left the rest and said, it became a helpless sigh. "Forget it. You decide for yourself." Lin Wanwan pressed her lips tightly together and said nothing more. The mother and daughter usually had little to talk about. They sat in silence for several minutes. Then when Xiuzhen took out her phone and started chatting. Meanwhile, I left the hospital and went straight home. Xubai was in her final year of high school. Her college entrance exams were approaching, and her studies were extremely demanding. To save time commuting to and from school, she had simply moved into the school dormitory. High schools were closed for the Mid-Autumn Festival today, so she would definitely be home. My sister and I were very close. I was fond of my sensible little sister. Perhaps because we had both been neglected by Chu Weilin, we sympathized with each other. That naturally brought us even closer. I hadn't seen her in so long that I missed her terribly. The moment I entered the house, I called her name. "Big brother." Xubai poked her head out from the second floor. I watched her quietly and felt dazed for a moment before I was sent to the sanatorium. She had nearly graduated from college and grown into a young woman. Seeing her youthful appearance again now felt incredibly unreal. "When did you get back?" I quickly snapped out of it and waved up at my sister with a smile. "Come down and let your brother have a look at you." Xubai immediately ran downstairs. When she reached me, she opened her arms and hugged me tightly. She rubbed her face against my neck a few times. "Big brother, I missed you so much." "I missed you too." I gently stroked the back of her head and asked warmly, "School must have worn you out." Xubai shook her head with a smile. "I'm not tired. Even if you were tired, you wouldn't say so. I know you best. Don't push yourself too hard. Rest when you need to. Your health is what matters most." "I know." Muliheng came out of the bathroom. Seeing the siblings embracing, he smiled with relief. But when Chu Weilin came out of her room and saw the heartwarming scene downstairs, she not only failed to smile, but instead frowned deeply. "Xiaobei, now that you're home, stop clinging to your brother. You're not even this affectionate with me. Anyone who didn't know better would think he was your father." Her words were rather harsh. Muliheng was displeased. He looked up and shouted at her. "Weilin, why are you saying such awful things on a holiday? If you don't like it, don't listen." Chu Weilin glared fiercely at him. "Stop shouting at me. If you lose your temper with me again, we can forget celebrating this holiday." "Mom, Mu Xiaobei let go of me and turned to her with an unhappy expression. Could you stop acting like this? The girl had inherited Chu Hulin's looks. She was extraordinarily beautiful. Even in her ordinary school uniform, she somehow made it look fashionable. She looked like a heroine straight out of a comic book. Your father was the one who shouted at me first. Face with that lovely face. Chu Huilin rarely managed to say anything harsh, so she merely complained about Mu Liheng. Your words were harsh to begin with, and now you won't even let anyone disagree. Mu Xiaobei retorted coldly. Chu Hulin's eyes widened. Mu Xiaobei, how dare you lecture me? Have you completely lost your mind? Xiaobei sulked and said nothing. In the past, I definitely would have thought mother was deliberately picking a fight, but now I knew she was acting out of disappointment. She wanted her daughter's attention, but didn't know how to get it. On top of that, she was strong-willed and refused to back down. That was why she kept picking fights. At that moment, I had to step in. Mom, I know you're worried I'll get tired. With Xiaobei clinging to me like this, I can't get a proper rest. Dad and Xiaobei just don't understand your good intentions. It's a holiday, so don't argue over it. I had given her the perfect way out. Chu Huilin stared at me for a long moment before snorting coldly, as if I would bother arguing with them. As long as you're not angry, I plan to cook a few dishes myself. Come help me in the kitchen. As I rolled up my sleeves, I turned to Mu Liheng and said, Dad, I've recently learned to make a few dishes. I've tried making them several times, and they taste pretty good. You have to try them today. You even learned how to cook. Mu Liheng burst out laughing. All right. Then I'll sit back and wait. Let's see how good my son's cooking is. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. I had once worked hard to please Lin Wanwan's family and put a great deal of effort into my cooking. I wasn't as good as a 5-star chef, but I was still quite capable. So Mu Liheng certainly wouldn't be disappointed. You little brat. You dare order me around now. Chu Huilin walked downstairs while poking me in the forehead. Although she complained bitterly, she still followed me into the kitchen. Only my father and sister remained in the living room. The father and daughter sat on the sofa chatting. When they discussed Lin Wanwan's car accident, Mu Xiaobei's expression turned cold. Mom already told me when Xiuzhen actually refused to hire a caregiver and made my brother take care of her all by himself. Isn't that blatantly bullying him? She simply looks down on your brother and deliberately took the chance to bully him. Mu Liheng picked up the cigarette pack from the coffee table. Mentioning this marriage filled him with worry. Are we just going to stand by and watch him get bullied? Mu Xiaobei's voice rose. Her emotions grew agitated. Keep your voice down. Mu Liheng's brows furrowed deeply. I feel sorry for your brother too, but you know how much he loves Lin Wanwan. If we demand an explanation and make Lin Wanwan unhappy, your brother will be the one who suffers. Mu Xiaobei clenched both hands into fists. She gritted her teeth and said, we should have stopped him back then. We should never have let him marry that woman. If I'd stopped him from marrying her, he would have gone on a hunger strike just to spite me. Otherwise, do you think I would have agreed? Mu Liheng took a deep drag from his cigarette. Maybe it's good for him to suffer a little. Once he can't take it anymore, he'll get divorced naturally. Mu Xiaobei still looked upset. I hope that's really how it turns out. In the kitchen, I knew nothing about this. I had no idea my family was worrying about me. I washed a basin of greens and handed them to Chu Huilin to chop. My expression alone showed how good I felt. I was so happy I nearly hummed a tune. Chu Huilin shot me a glare. What is you so happy? I'm home. Of course I'm happy. I answered with a beaming smile. Just because of that. That's more than enough to make me happy. I lowered my eyes and sighed softly. Nowhere feels as good as home. Nothing compares to being with family. That, at least, was the truth. I thought she wouldn't let you leave today. I guess she still has some decency. Chu Huilin stopped chopping. Her face was filled with confusion. What on earth is Lin Wanwan thinking? Didn't Zimo return from abroad? Why doesn't she have him stay with her every day, instead of making you keep watch at the hospital? How would I know? I find it ridiculous too. She used to find even the sight of me annoying. I don't know what got into her after this accident. Whatever has gotten into her, since you've decided to stop loving her and are determined to divorce her. You can't let her confuse you again, or go running back to win her approval. Mom, I know, I'd have to be out of my mind, with a serious masochistic streak, to fall for her again, seeing that I still hadn't wavered in the slightest. Chu Huilin nodded in satisfaction. That's the way to think. There are plenty of good women besides her. Mom, that's not what you said before. You're awfully changeable. I lightly bumped her shoulder. Unable to resist, I teased her. Before, I thought you loved her too much, and might regret divorcing her when it was too late. Now that you really seem to have moved on, Getting divorced as soon as possible is best. Maybe because I kept reassuring her. She was finally willing to speak from the heart. Chu Weilin and I chatted as we worked. Our hands moved swiftly. I planned to make 3 of my specialties. The housekeeper could handle the rest. Once everything was washed and chopped, I began stir-frying the dishes with practiced ease. There was nothing left for Chu Weilin to help with, so she stood nearby and watched me work. I chatted with her while cooking. The smile never left my face. "Why are you so happy?" Chu Weilin asked with a smile. "I get to celebrate the holiday with my family and let you all eat the food I made. Of course I'm happy." Chu Weilin lightly pressed her lips together and lowered her eyes in silence. She had never truly understood the meaning of home. Her childhood had been terribly miserable. Her father was a hot-tempered gambling addict. Her mother couldn't take it anymore and abandoned her. Creditors came every day demanding repayment. The house was often trashed. Her father stayed away all day to evade his debts. Even when he came back, he only took his anger out on her. She endured unimaginable hardship just to survive. She never made a sound, even when her ribs were broken. Living in such an environment, a person would either go insane or become numb. At 14, she fled that home and severed the chains of her past. She had never known what a normal family looked like. Later, to survive, she wrapped herself in thick armor and armed herself with the sharpest weapons. So after she married, whether toward her husband or her children, she always appeared cold and distant. Someone who has never been loved properly could hardly know how to love others. While reaching for the vinegar, I glanced at her. She was leaning against the wall, staring blankly at one spot. I had no idea what was on her mind. I smiled kindly and didn't disturb her. After some time, Chu Weilin pulled herself from her memories, rolled up her sleeves, and walked to the refrigerator. "Then I'll make the dishes as well." My eyes lit up at once. I immediately turned to her. "Mom, then you have to show off your skills. I haven't eaten your cooking in ages. Have I ever cooked for you before?" Chu Weilin looked completely puzzled. Ever since she married into wealth, she seemed never to have entered the kitchen again. The smile on my face suddenly froze. I lowered my eyes and said softly, "Of course I did. It was just many years ago. You probably don't remember." Chu Weilin nodded slightly, believing she had simply forgotten. She didn't think much of it. I quickly turned back around and quietly let out a sigh of relief. At this point in my second life, I truly hadn't eaten anything she had cooked yet. Back then, after suffering a terrible injustice, I ran home to my parents and cried. Without a second thought, she went into the kitchen and cooked for me. She asked me then whether I wanted a divorce. I shook my head and refused without hesitation. I had been such an idiot back then. Unfortunately, I had been blinded by love and had completely lost my reason. "What are you staring into space for?" I'd been lost in thought for too long. The sauce in the pot was almost completely reduced. Chu Weilin quickly nudged my arm. I snapped back to reality. I hurriedly grabbed the kettle and added water to the pot. I was too absorbed in my thoughts. "Were you thinking about the divorce?" "No." A faint smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. "She and I will get divorced sooner or later. There's nothing to agonize over. I just think my former self was ridiculous. Who hasn't done stupid things when they were young? Stop overthinking it. From now on, plan your life carefully." "I know." I reached out and draped an arm over her shoulder. I promised with a broad smile. "From now on, I'll listen to everything Mom says." Faced with my sudden affection, Chu Weilin looked unaccustomed to it. She seemed somewhat at a loss, so she pulled her arm free and said awkwardly, "Don't try that on me. You're being unbearably mushy. Do you really not like me clinging to you?" I draped my arm over her shoulder again and asked with a grin. "I don't." Chu Weilin said she didn't like it, but this time, she didn't pull her arm away. I smiled in satisfaction and said nothing more. In the end, she and I each made 3 dishes. The housekeeper prepared the cold dishes. 8 delicious dishes were laid across the table. I went to the living room to call everyone to dinner. When Mulihang came in and saw the table full of food, he asked in astonishment, "My good boy, did you make all of this? If I had made all these dishes myself, you wouldn't have eaten until after dark." I pointed to the dishes on the table. "I made these 3 dishes." Then I pointed to another 3. "Mom made these 3 herself. Annie Lin made the rest." "What did you say? Your mother cooked them herself?" Mulihang's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets. Did I hear that right? In all the years he'd been married, he had never eaten anything his wife had cooked. Now, at last, that day had come. Along with his shock, he was filled with excitement. "You heard correctly. Mom really did make them." I answered with a broad smile. "Pigs must be flying today. I've never seen anything like this." Mulihang excitedly sat down in his chair. He happily slapped his thigh. "This is incredible." Chu Weilin was both embarrassed and annoyed by him. She snapped sharply, "Mulihang, why do you talk so much during a meal?" All right, I'll shut up and eat." Mulihang eagerly picked up his chopsticks, wanting to taste his wife's cooking. Once everyone had taken their seats. He immediately picked up a bite of food and stuffed it into his mouth. Xiuzhen had worked outside the home in her younger years and developed excellent cooking skills. Although she was rusty from years of not cooking, the food still tasted remarkably good. It's delicious. Mu Liheng praised her with a thumbs up. That's my wife. Your cooking is incredible. He had always been very direct with his compliments. Xiuzhen could never handle his praise. A faint blush spread across her cheeks, but with the two children present, she felt embarrassed. Angry from embarrassment, she said, "Can't you understand that I told you to shut up and eat?" Mu Liheng obediently fell silent. Seeing this, Mu Xiaobei and I exchanged a glance and broke into radiant smiles. When parents love each other, their children naturally feel happy. Hurry and try what your brother made. I picked up some food and placed it in my sister's bowl. Mu Xiaobei stared at the food in her bowl with a puzzled expression. Is this lily bulb? Yes. This dish is called pumpkin and lily bulb stew. I scooped some for myself as I spoke. The warm, soft soup melted in my mouth. I nodded with great satisfaction. Looks like my cooking hasn't gotten worse. Mu Xiaobei put it in her mouth, and her eyes lit up. Brother, this dish is delicious. As soon as she finished speaking, she ate several big spoonfuls in a row. Seeing how much she enjoyed it, our parents reached for their spoons as well. After tasting it, they both praised it enthusiastically. Mu Chen, you really have a gift for cooking. Whoever marries you will be lucky. Mu Liheng picked up the glass of wine beside him and watched my expression as he drank. He was testing me with those words, trying to find out whether I was determined to stay with Lin Wanwan. How could I not understand his intention? I replied half-jokingly, Dad, you've raised me all these years. I have to let you enjoy the good life for a few more years before I let another woman benefit from me. I was making it clear that I would get divorced. Mu Liheng understood my position and smiled even more happily. The corners of his mouth nearly reached his ears. Exactly. I worked so hard to raise my son. I can't just let someone else benefit from him. He needs to look after me for a few more years. I smiled and nodded without saying anything more. Brother, Mu Xiaobei called softly. I leaned closer and asked with a smile, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Mu Xiaobei gazed at my profile with a silly grin. "I just feel happy." She had understood our conversation as well and was genuinely happy for me. In many people's eyes, I wasn't good enough for the Lin family. But in my family's eyes, I was a priceless treasure. I hadn't realized that before my rebirth. Thankfully, fate had given me a chance to live again. This time, I would cherish my family. Our family enjoyed a joyful reunion dinner together. We were all in exceptionally good spirits. Just as we were preparing to leave the table, Annie Lin walked in, looking troubled. "Sir, ma'am, some guests have arrived." Xiuzhen asked with a frown. "Who is it?" Annie Lin hesitated for a long moment, then said, "It's Mu Jianhua's family." Mu Jianhua was Mu Liheng's older brother. Back then, the old master handed the family business to my father. Mu Jianhua's family had always held a grudge over it. His wife, Zheng, was aggressive and sharp-tongued. Every visit brought trouble without fail. Today was the Mid-Autumn Festival. They had deliberately come to make my day miserable. Xiuzhen knew exactly what they were up to. She immediately ordered, "Have the guards stop them? Don't let them in. Just say we've gone out to celebrate." Yes, tell them exactly that. Mu Liheng didn't want to see them either. At least, he absolutely didn't want to see them today. Annie Lin quickly nodded. "I'll tell the guards right away." After she left, I looked at Xiuzhen and said, "Mom, let them come in. We can't always let them come here looking for trouble. I'd like to give them a taste of their own medicine too. But I can't. Who can blame me when my own record is covered in stains? I simply can't outdo them." Xiuzhen gave a self-mocking laugh. "Mom, don't talk about yourself like that. They're the ones covered in disgrace." I let out a cold laugh. In my previous life, I learned many secrets. No one in Mu Jianhua's family was innocent. They had too many dark secrets to hide. So, I was very confident. If those three dared to come in, I could humiliate them until they ran away with their tails between their legs. Xiuzhen raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that?" "You'll know when the time comes." I smiled meaningfully. A flicker passed through Xiuzhen's eyes. She didn't press me further. She knew I wasn't making baseless claims and began forming her own plan. Not long after Annie Lin left, she came running back, her face pale. "Sir, ma'am, I'm afraid I was too late." The guards didn't forcefully stop them. They forced their way inside. Xiuzhen nodded calmly. "I understand. Brother, sister-in-law, where are you?" Zheng Ying's shrill voice came from outside. It was painfully grating and deeply unpleasant to hear. Although we had prepared ourselves mentally, actually facing their family still left us deeply uncomfortable, both physically and mentally. "Oh, your whole family is having a meal." Zheng Ying appeared at the dining room entrance. She was in her 40s. Her figure had grown somewhat plump. Her lipstick was garishly bright and jarring. It was unpleasant to look at. No one in the dining room paid her any attention. Zheng Ying didn't feel embarrassed in the slightest. She simply grinned and said, "Sister-in-law, we're family, after all. It's the Mid-Autumn Festival. Wouldn't it be inappropriate Not to invite us to your reunion dinner. Exactly. Mu Jianhua also appeared from behind her and pointed at Mu Liheng accusingly. Liheng, aren't you hurting your brother's feelings by acting this way? He and my father shared the same father, but had different mothers. He had been useless and led a debauched life since childhood. That was why the old master handed the family business to my father. Every time he mocked my father over the company's crises, my father could only fall silent and endure his taunts. Uncle, it's only noon. We're just having a casual meal. We were planning to invite you over this afternoon, I said with a smile. Oh, isn't that Mu Chen? What are you doing at home? Zheng Ying turned to me and began speaking sarcastically. You just married Lin Wanwan, and she was in such a serious accident. Instead of staying at the hospital to care for her, you came home to eat and drink. Looking at that smile of yours, your love-struck act must be fake, right? She simply couldn't stand seeing me marry well. When I married Lin Wanwan, she was the most jealous of all. Annie, Wanwan's injuries are improving every day. Should I cry instead of smile? She was worried her parents would be concerned, so she kept urging me to come home for the holiday. Otherwise, how could I bear to leave her? I put on a bashful expression. Don't worry about me. I'm living a very happy life now, with someone as jealous as her. The happier I looked, the angrier she would become. Sure enough, Zheng Ying's expression darkened. She let out a cold snort. Oh, give me a break. Who doesn't know she doesn't like you? We're all family. Who doesn't know each other here? Zheng Ying, you keep calling us family. So, why are you being so spiteful? Chu Weilin rose and walked behind me. She placed both hands on my shoulders and stared straight at Zheng Ying. You're a woman too. Don't you understand how women think? Our Mu Chen is so handsome. How can you be sure that after they marry, she won't gradually fall for him? Zheng Ying's face instantly darkened. She was left speechless. That's true. He was raised by you after all. Lin Wanwan would have no reason not to like him. Those words didn't come from the Mu Jianhua couple, but from their daughter, Mu Yulu. She had inherited all her mother's worst traits, and was even worse. She had absolutely no moral boundaries. Mu Yulu sauntered in with a banana between her teeth. She swayed into the dining room and leered at me. Cousin Mu Chen, I haven't seen you in so many days. You've gotten even more handsome. I clenched the tablecloth. My eyes burned red with fury. I was trembling with rage. I wanted nothing more than to throw her out. Mu Yulu, what did you mean by that? Mu Liheng sprang to his feet and roared at her furiously. I meant exactly what I said. Mu Yulu gave a sly laugh. Uncle, you've seen plenty of action. You must know exactly what I mean. Everyone in our family changed expression. Mu Liheng was especially enraged. He slammed the table and shouted furiously. He harshly berated her for having no manners. Frightened, Mu Yulu stumbled back several steps and glared viciously at my father from against the wall. Mu Liheng, what are you doing? Mu Jianhua couldn't stand seeing his daughter mistreated. He rushed forward and shoved my father hard. Just talk to her properly. Why are you losing your temper? Does that sound like she's speaking properly to you? Weilin is her aunt. How dare she insult her? Does she have any respect for me? She's my daughter. Even if she said something wrong, it's not your place to interfere. As soon as he finished speaking, Zheng Ying grabbed a plate from the table and smashed it. She picked up a shard and pointed it at my father. How dare you insult my precious daughter? Do you really think we're easy to push around? Who exactly is easy to push around? Mu Liheng was absolutely furious. He angrily picked up a shard, slammed it onto the floor, and pointed at Zheng Ying. I've been far too lenient with you. If you have the nerve, come at me. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? Whenever they came to cause trouble at our home, my father would lose his temper. But things had never become this ugly. How could my father possibly endure it any longer? His fury stunned Mu Jianhua's entire family. They froze, unsure what to do. My father had been proud and arrogant in his youth. Now, he had built the company into a thriving business. He was certainly not someone to provoke. Although Mu Jianhua's family was foolish, they understood that much. In a standoff like this, someone should have stepped in to mediate. But Chu Weilin had endured too many grievances. She couldn't wait to tear off all pretense. She had no intention of smoothing things over. Mu Xiaobei and I were more interested in watching the drama unfold. Chu Weilin spoke coldly. Zheng Ying, if you dare cause trouble today, I won't let you off. You know what I'm capable of. Her eyes were deep and icy. The sight sent a chill through anyone who saw them. Zheng Ying's face filled with fear. She forcefully backed away. Liheng, don't get so worked up. Mu Jianhua knew it was time to back down. You know how much your sister-in-law dotes on her. She was only upset in the heat of the moment. You can understand that, right? So your daughter is precious. But my wife is just a doormat. Does that mean anyone can walk all over her? I snorted. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. My father used to be terrible with words, but now he had certainly become sharp-tongued. What a happy development. A smile also touched Chu Hulin's face. She looked at my father. That's enough. Mu Liheng kept a stern expression and pretended not to hear her. He coldly challenged Zheng Ying. Can't you do it? Zheng Ying shook her head repeatedly in fright. Mu Liheng let out a cold laugh. So that's all the courage you have? If it had been your sister-in-law, I would already be carried out of here. Chu Weilin gave him a warning look. Mu Liheng nervously nervously pulled his neck in. Then he returned to his fierce expression. I'm warning you. Don't come causing trouble at our house again. I won't tolerate it anymore. You. Mu Liheng pointed at Mu Yulu and roared harshly. Come here and apologize to your aunt. My father was tall and powerfully built. When he lost his temper, he frightened everyone. Although Mu Yulu held a grudge, she didn't dare challenge him head-on. She walked over to my mother with a deeply aggrieved expression. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. Chu Weilin lifted her eyes to look at her. A trace of mockery flashed in her eyes. I hope you mean that apology. I absolutely do. Mu Yulu bent at the waist, with a servile, fake smile on her face. I haven't been thinking clearly lately. You're the bigger person. Please don't hold it against me. If you aren't thinking clearly, stay home. Don't go wandering around for no reason. Mu Yulu glared viciously at her. Mu Xiaobei. Why are you butting in? How rude. She had always hated her younger cousin. The two girls were close in age and were often compared by others. Mu Xiaobei had been well-behaved and excelled in school since childhood, while Mu Yulu was mischievous and never applied herself. So she lost every time they were compared. Extremely competitive, she was furious about it. Naturally, my sister disliked her too. That was why every meeting between them was filled with tension. My dad told me to say whatever I had to say directly, instead of bottling it up. Mu Xiaobei set down her chopsticks and wiped her mouth. Besides, with so many elders present, even if I shouldn't have interrupted, it certainly isn't your place to lecture me. Mu Yulu's expression turned ugly. She wanted to fire back, but didn't know what to say. The frustration nearly suffocated her. Enough. Chu Weilin waved at her daughter, signaling her to stop. Yulu, you go wild when you're out, and you've caused plenty of trouble. Your aunt knows all about it. There's nothing wrong with young people having fun, but you'd better learn some restraint. Otherwise, if you provoke someone you shouldn't, even your aunt won't be able to help you. There was far too much information in those words. With Mu Yulu's limited intelligence, she could hardly understand them. She looked anxiously at Zheng Ying. Zheng Ying shook her head at her, her face pale. Then she pleaded hoarsely. Sister-in-law, she's still young. Please don't hold it against her. Besides, we're family. What could there possibly be that family can't get past? Indeed, a cold smile curled across Chu Hulin's lips. There's nothing family can't get past. I'll remember that. Her words clearly carried another meaning. Zheng Ying felt extremely uneasy. She reached behind her and tugged at her husband's trouser leg. Mu Jianhua also realized that something was wrong. With a grim face, he walked over to his daughter and forced her head down. You good-for-nothing girl. You have no filter. Now apologize properly again. Dad. Mu Yulu still hadn't grasped the situation and shouted furiously. I already apologized. I said apologize again. Mu Yulu gritted her teeth, seething with resentment. I'm sorry. I really know I was wrong. Sister-in-law, she truly knows she was wrong. Please forgive her, all right? Mu Jianhua pleaded with complete sincerity. Big brother, what are you doing? The child already apologized. It's hardly a big deal. There's no need to make it so serious. Chu Weilin gave him a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was unsettling to look at. After frightening them, she still had to pretend to be magnanimous. Mu Jianhua was seething inside, but could only force himself to endure it. The child was being rude. How could that be called a small matter? I'll discipline her properly when we get home. I guarantee she'll treat you with the utmost respect next time. Chu Weilin smiled and nodded. A little extra discipline would do her good. She had played both the good cop and the bad cop. Mu Jianhua's family felt utterly stifled, but they were at a disadvantage now. So no matter how furious they were, they could only swallow it. Now that everything's out in the open. Big uncle, sit down and eat with us. No, thank you. Mu Jianhua hurriedly waved his hands and refused. It's getting late. We should be heading home. Didn't you come for a family reunion dinner? Chu Weilin asked with a deliberate smile. She still remembered what Zheng Ying had said when she walked in. Now, she had paid it back with interest. Zheng Ying's face instantly stiffened. She gripped her handbag tightly. She answered stiffly. I was only joking. We ate before we came. Chu Weilin nodded knowingly. So, you were only joking. All right, then. Be careful on your way home. She deliberately stressed the final four words. It sounded almost like a curse. The Mu Jianhua couple looked furious. They didn't want to stay another second. They hurried out with their daughter. Once they had left through the front door, Chu Weilin sneered. They all turned into such pathetic cowards. Yet they still thought they could walk all over me. They really were causing trouble earlier. Mu Xiaobei chimed in from the side. If I hadn't wanted to make Dad uncomfortable, I would have dealt with them long ago. My sister's remark left Mom unable to save face. She instantly bristled. Mu Xiaobei loved watching her bristle. She did it purely for revenge. Revenge for all those years of her mother's coldness. Your mother is absolutely right. If it weren't for my sake, your mother would have acted long ago. Mu Liheng hurried to soothe his wife, or he would be the one to suffer in the end. Chu Weilin felt much better. She snorted coldly. If it weren't for this family, I wouldn't put up with this nonsense. Yes, Yes, yes. Mu Liheng nodded repeatedly in agreement. Just thinking about it makes me furious. What did you promise me before I married you? You said you would never let me suffer the slightest grievance. You didn't give me any grief yourself, but you let everyone else give me grief. It's all my fault. A man's promises are nothing but lies. That couldn't be more true. Absolutely. Absolutely. No matter what Xiuzhen complained about, my father nodded repeatedly in agreement. My sister and I watched with undisguised disdain. To be this terrified of one's wife, it was almost too embarrassing to watch. After venting, Xiuzhen felt much better. She picked up her water glass and took a sip. Then she announced coldly, I won't indulge them anymore. They keep pushing their luck. If we keep giving in, who knows how they'll treat us next? Then we won't indulge them anymore. Mu Liheng gently patted her back. Calm down. Don't make yourself ill. Xiuzhen said nothing more. After a few more sips of water, she left. My father followed soon after. Only my sister and I remained in the dining room. I picked up some food and placed it in my sister's bowl. I said gently, you're still growing. Eat more nutritious food. Big brother, I'm already full. Though she said that, she still picked up her chopsticks and ate it. After swallowing it, she hesitated before speaking. Big brother, why was Big Uncle so afraid of Mom just now? My hand paused as I picked up food. I withdrew my hand and let out a long sigh. It's better if you don't know about that. Big brother, I'm an adult now. Mu Xiaobei looked somewhat displeased. Children her age hated being treated like children. One look at her told me I was right. I gently placed my chopsticks on the rest. Then I folded my hands behind my head and stared at the ceiling. Memories of my previous life resurfaced. Mom had suffered greatly since childhood. She lost both parents and endured countless hardships. The kind of hardship we could never imagine. But you know how strong she is. No matter how difficult things became, she still carved out a world of her own. Have you heard of Fengyuan Group? I turned my head to look at Mu Xiaobei. Mu Xiaobei shook her head blankly. It's normal that you haven't heard of it. The group moved away more than 10 years ago. Mom once managed that group. I thought for a moment, then continued explaining. The owner behind the group was highly mysterious. No one knew the owner's true identity. Later, a business dispute arose. They only contacted the person in charge at the time. Just try to imagine this. To be able to stand on your own in a place like that, and to this day, no one knows what forces stood behind it, was proof of how powerful its backing was. The higher-ups recognized Mom's talent and entrusted her with major responsibilities. Before anything went wrong, they helped her get away safely. They even helped her smooth everything over. That alone showed how capable she was. Mu Xiaobei stared at me blankly. She was clearly stunned by what I had told her. She couldn't process it right away. I had actually left out many details and explained the rest rather vaguely. Xiuzhen had been a major figure in her younger days. Her methods had simply been swift and decisive. I knew I couldn't tell my sister everything, but she insisted on knowing, so I could only tell her what I was allowed to share. So, when Mom was young, she was. Mu Xiaobei couldn't think of the right word. I sighed softly and finished for her. She was the queen pin. In short, she was someone nobody dared to mess with. So after Mom lost her temper, Annie was so frightened. If Mom had truly wanted to act, Mu Yulu wouldn't even have known how she died. Mu Xiaobei's expression darkened slightly. She didn't know what to say. Although Zheng Ying often spoke badly about our mother, she never dared mention anything like this. She was afraid of offending Mom. Naturally, my sister knew nothing about it. I chose to tell you this because I don't want you hearing it from someone else later. People would inevitably exaggerate the story. I'm worried it might affect your relationship with Mom. Just remember this clearly. No matter what Mom went through in the past, she isn't a bad person. At least, she certainly isn't one to us. The more I spoke, the more serious my expression became. Before I was reborn, my sister heard some gossip from somewhere. She went home and had a huge argument with Mom. Her words were vicious and cutting, rubbing salt into Mom's wounds. Xiuzhen refused to show her vulnerability. She didn't want to dredge up the past and explain. In the end, mother and daughter completely fell out. So after being reborn, I would never let that tragedy happen again. Big brother, I'll remember that. Mu Xiaobei had always listened to me. She gazed at me obediently. I reached out and ruffled her hair. Good girl. Big brother, are you still going to the hospital to care for her? A hopeless romantic really can't be saved. After several failed attempts to persuade me, Mu Xiaobei finally gave up completely. But this time, I gave her a different answer. She wondered if she had heard me wrong. I know I won't be happy with her. I've finally come to my senses. We'll get divorced sooner or later. Don't worry about me anymore. I looked at her helplessly. Big brother, is that really true? The girl's eyes grew brighter. They shone like the brightest stars. They were so beautiful they took my breath away. I nodded with a smile. That's wonderful. I'm glad you've come to your senses. Mu Xiaobei smiled in relief. If you hadn't come to your senses, I would have had to teach her a lesson. You little brat. I can't believe you actually dared to say that. I raised my hand and smacked the back of her head. Mu Xiaobei rubbed the spot I'd hit. She giggled foolishly. I was only joking. I pressed my lips tightly together. My expression became complicated. What do you mean, joking? I knew she had been completely serious. Before I was reborn, I once went home to pick something up. Passing my sister's room, I noticed the door wasn't fully closed. I saw her sitting at her desk, secretly writing something. Curious, I pushed the door open and walked in. She hurriedly swept everything into a drawer. When she turned and saw me, a look of panic flashed across her face. I walked over, pulled open the drawer, and looked inside. It was a letter severing ties. She wanted to confront Wanwan face to face. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Big brother, let me explain. I can't stand watching you ruin yourself like this. I only wanted her to stay away from you. Enough. Stay out of my affairs. I'm telling Mom about this. I've confiscated the letter. Later, she cried and explained a lot. I can't remember the details anymore. It was probably something about doing it for my own good. After that, my sister and I barely kept in touch. At the time, Wanwan meant more to me than anyone. My sister had tried to hurt her. That was enough to make me resent her. So I deliberately distanced myself from her. Big brother, why did you suddenly stop talking? Xiuzhen interrupted my memories. I looked at my sister in front of me and said with a wry smile, you're really too foolish. Everyone else says I'm clever. Why are you the only one who calls me foolish? Xiuzhen looked thoroughly frustrated. Because I've seen through your true nature. I stood up with a smile. All right, let's get outside. NGÓN can finish cleaning up sooner. And we can get home early to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. Okay. My sister and I walked out of the dining room. When we saw that our parents weren't in the living room, we didn't bother looking for them. The sunlight outside was warm and bright. We made some tea and sat in the courtyard. I leaned comfortably against the chair. I narrowed my eyes and basked in the sunshine. Anyone who didn't know better would think you were keeping her. You got into a car accident, yet she still gets to live in comfort. I know. Of course, I know you do. I'm not an idiot. Anger surged straight to my head. You spend money on a caregiver so she can live comfortably, but you won't give me a penny. You exploit me like a slave every day. I just want to ask you one thing. Do you even treat me like a human being? Since you are human, of course I treat you like one. Wanwan's voice was very deep. She sounded as if she'd just woken up. Sure enough, she yawned the very next second. I was already about to explode with anger. That yawn pushed me over the edge. Wanwan, listen to me carefully. If you expect me to keep waiting on you, that's never going to happen. The moment I finished speaking, I hung up without hesitation. Xiuzhen had heard everything from beside me. She demanded angrily, Big brother, you've been caring for her all these days. Wasn't I the one doing it all? I tossed my phone onto the chair. With my hands on my hips, I fumed. They simply don't want me to have an easy time. I can tolerate that. But hiring a caregiver who sleeps soundly in the next room, who exactly is that supposed to disgust? Isn't it obviously meant to disgust you? Chu Huelin's amused voice came from behind me. I whipped around to look at her. I pouted miserably. The Lin family is awful. Every last one of them is rotten to the core. Chu Huelin smiled without replying. She walked over and held up her phone. It showed a transfer that had just arrived. You know what's going on, right? I stared at the amount on the phone. My eyes widened in shock. This couldn't have been sent by Wanwan, could it? It was. Chu Huelin put her phone away. Her smile disappeared as well. Go back to the hospital right now. Mom, you sold me out for this little bit of money. I felt like I was falling apart. This little bit of money? Chu Huelin let out a cold laugh. Even if I sold you, you wouldn't be worth 30 million. Uncle Chen, take him back to the hospital immediately. After saying that, Chu Huelin turned and went inside. I looked thoroughly miserable. Since things had come to this, I had no choice but to go back. No matter how unwilling I was. The one who pays is always right, I suppose. Back in the hospital room, I was still seething inside. So I deliberately ignored Wanwan again. Wanwan was furious too. She paid, and this was the service she got. The two of us fell into another cold war. That lasted until the doctor finished examining her and said she'd soon be able to move freely. I couldn't sit still anymore. She would fully recover sooner or later. Once she could run and jump again, she would definitely take revenge on me. As the bandages covering her gradually came off, I was so worried I couldn't eat. I barely slept either. Countless times, I wanted to wait until she fell asleep and give her a couple of good whacks. Wanwan finally couldn't take it anymore. No one could stand lying beside someone who was always plotting to hurt them. Living on guard every day would drive anyone crazy. Then, one day, the doctor said she could begin rehabilitation. She looked at me sighing by the window. As long as you help me with rehabilitation, once I'm safely discharged, I won't mention what happened before. She hadn't said it outright, but she'd made her meaning perfectly clear. I still wasn't reassured. I hurried to to the bedside and stared intently at her. Are you sure you won't take revenge after you're discharged? Lin Wanwan clenched her teeth. I'm sure. The formidable president of the Ling group had been bullied while lying in a hospital bed and had to swallow her anger without lashing out. The humiliation and frustration she felt were easy to imagine. Whether she truly felt humiliated, though, I couldn't say. I only knew that I was very happy. I'd done something bad without paying the price. It felt absolutely wonderful. My worries vanished in an instant. I felt much lighter. You must be thirsty. I was in an excellent mood and was willing to smile at her again. I'll get you a cup of warm water. Lin Wanwan's eyes flickered. She spoke sullenly and made a request. Add some honey to it. There's a saying, give someone an inch, and they'll take a mile. My eyelid twitched. The smile on my face faded. Where am I supposed to buy honey for you? There's a supermarket downstairs. I'm not going. I don't feel like moving. My tolerance for her was extremely low. She realized that again. She clicked her tongue in annoyance. Why are you clicking your tongue? That irritated me even more. I'm not your personal caregiver, and I'm certainly not your private nanny. You can't just decide what you want me to do and expect me to do it. Give you an inch, and you take a mile. Since when does a glass of water need honey? When you used to work late into the night. Why didn't you ever take care of yourself? Back then, I was asking for it. She didn't even take care of her own health. Yet I insisted on earnestly lecturing her. In return, she accused me of meddling. She told me to get lost and stay as far away as possible. Lin Wanwan lowered her eyes. She remained silent. Had she really gone that far? No wonder she had begun doubting herself. Even though she was cold by nature, that didn't mean she couldn't appreciate kindness. When faced with someone's kindness, she usually wouldn't refuse it, let alone respond coldly. She kept quiet, and I had no idea what she was thinking. I rolled my eyes dramatically. Then I turned and walked to the water dispenser. I filled a cup with warm water and came back. I handed it straight to Lin Wanwan. Take it and drink it yourself. Her left hand wasn't badly injured. After so many days of recovery, it was almost healed. Apart from eating, which was still difficult and required me to feed her, she could handle small things like drinking water and picking things up by herself. Lin Wanwan reached out and took the cup. She tilted her head slightly and took a couple of small sips. Then she set the cup on the bedside table. I'd casually left my phone there earlier. The screen was still on because I'd forgotten to turn it off. Lin Wanwan couldn't help seeing it. The name Zhu at the top of the chat made her brow twitch. These two actually dared to claim they weren't familiar with each other. They were fooling no one. She took 2 deep breaths. After lying down, she asked as calmly as she could. You knew Zhu before, didn't you? She had asked that question countless times. Why are you so hung up on this? Is something wrong with you? Lin Wanwan also wondered if something was wrong with her. Whenever she saw Zhu and me chatting happily, she felt extremely irritated. I simply couldn't understand it, leaving aside whether it had anything to do with you. Zhu quickly pushed the door open and entered. Miss Lin, where did Chen go? Sir, he went to. Zhu face was pale. She looked as if she wanted to speak, but didn't dare. Lin Wanwan was in a terrible mood. If you have something to say it. Sir saw that I looked worn out. Lin Wanwan felt as though she could barely breathe. He wouldn't even go downstairs to buy me honey. Yet he ran to buy Zhu something. Worst of all, he'd volunteered to go. That man was infuriating enough to drive anyone insane. Zhu had been by her side for years and knew how furious she was. Zhu tried to sneak away, but the moment she moved one small step, Lin Wanwan shot her a hostile look. Get in here now. Today, she had to get to the bottom of this. Otherwise, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being cheated on. 20 minutes later, I returned to find Zhu looking deathly pale. I hurried over. Why do you look so pale? Are you tired from standing? Or do you feel unwell? No, I just feel very hot. Zhu kept her head bowed. How could she not feel hot? She'd nearly been burned to death by Lin Wanwan's fury. Hot? I scratched my head in confusion. I actually feel a little cold. Are you really sick? Why don't you see a doctor? Faced with my earnest concern, Zhu was panicking inside. She wiped the cold sweat from her forehead. Then she replied with a strained expression. Thank you for your concern, sir. I'll have it checked. President Lin needs someone to care for her. You should go back inside. I stared intently at her. I didn't say anything for a moment. My instincts clearly told me that Zhu was acting strangely, and the person who had put her in that state was very likely Lin Wanwan. I turned and pushed open the door to the hospital room. She was leaning against the headboard, looking at her phone. A faint smile still lingered on her face. I approached and asked cautiously, did Zhu come in earlier? Lin Wanwan gave me a disinterested glance. I was busy handling work. Why would I call her in to disturb me? She was simply lying. She was a shrewd businesswoman. Lying was as natural to her as eating. She'd long since mastered the art of lying without batting an eye, so I couldn't spot any flaws. I was still suspicious, though. I watched her for quite a while, but I couldn't find anything suspicious. Only then did I reluctantly warn her. You'd better be honest and above board. I'm sorry. I don't know what you mean. Wanwan remained utterly calm. I didn't press further. I took the snacks and sat down on the sofa. I put on a newly released wish fulfillment drama, half reclining on the comfortable sofa. I ate snacks while watching. I even exclaimed at the exciting parts. Wanwan turned and glanced at me. Just watching me was enough to show how content I was. Wanwan found it very amusing. No matter when, this man could always make himself happy. Put simply, he was carefree to the point of being heartless. As luck would have it, just as she was about to look away, I suddenly turned to look at her. Why are you staring at me and grinning like a creep? I demanded with a frown. How did you know I was looking at you? She was a business mogul, after all. Even in awkward situations, she neither blushed nor flinched. She remained completely composed. I saw you looking at me with my own eyes. I turned and glanced around. Then I said mockingly, this mural is quite beautiful, but I think I'm better looking. So, you must have been looking at me. Oh, please. She mocked me without the slightest hesitation. Overconfidence is just arrogance. Are you like this at school too? I smugly raised my eyebrows. Is there a problem? It's good that you don't have a problem. Otherwise, I'm afraid someone will beat you up on the way. Don't worry. No one's ever beaten me up. That only proves you caused too much trouble. Wanwan chuckled softly. Then she stopped talking. Her attitude made me seem like a child, while she was a tolerant adult. Faced with the child's childish remarks, she could only laugh them off helplessly, rather than argue with me. My good mood was ruined again. I didn't want to look at her anymore. I put down my phone and lay down with my back to her. He really is angry. Wanwan raised an eyebrow. She decided not to make a move. After an unknown amount of time, just as she wondered whether I had fallen asleep, she heard my inner voice. I really want to get back to school. Facing this moody woman, who's hideously ugly, and whom I hate, every day is torture. Wanwan's face instantly darkened. She heard the complaints in my thoughts every day, and had to pretend she knew nothing. That was painful too. Just then, a knock suddenly sounded. I immediately perked up my ears. Come in. Wanwan's voice was soft and sweet, filled with a gentleness as soothing as water, even without looking at her face. Listening to her voice alone was a pleasure. The person outside pushed open the door and entered. It was the male nurse who often changed her dressings. The nurse was quite young. He had probably just graduated from college. He was fair and baby-faced, with handsome features. By ordinary standards, he was quite handsome. The moment he entered and saw Wanwan, his face flushed involuntarily. He then lowered his head slightly and walked to the bedside to set down the ointment. Miss Lin, apply this ointment to the bruised areas. The bruises will fade after a few applications. Okay. Wanwan was usually cold toward others. The male nurse had never seen her smile. He was curious to see what she looked like when she smiled. It had to be even more captivating. He bit his lip hard and mustered the courage to look up at her. Miss Lin, you can begin rehabilitation this afternoon. That means it won't be long before you'll be able to move freely again. That was the best news possible. Just as the male nurse hoped, a faint smile appeared on her face. How beautiful she looked when she smiled. How charming she was, and how easily people could fall for her. I knew better than anyone. So, when I turned and saw the nurse's expression, his eyes flickered slightly. I let out a cold laugh and mocked her. Wanwan, hurry up and leave the hospital to go home. The stinky socks you've been collecting for over 20 days are almost moldy and rotten. I'm not trying to criticize you, but you look so respectable. How can you be so unhygienic? I've had enough of living with you. Wanwan stared at me coldly. When she was about to speak, I quickly cut her off and continued. Why are you glaring at me? Isn't what I said the truth? Young man, remember this well. When choosing a partner, you can't judge by appearance alone. Good looks can't feed you. Even if they could, they wouldn't necessarily taste good. Take my wife in name only, for example. I deeply regret marrying her. She's unhygienic, slovenly, and unable to care for herself. On top of that, she's completely unfaithful. The male nurse's eyes widened in shock. Was this gossip he got to hear for free? Who could tolerate an unfaithful partner? You could say she's rich and powerful. Her unfaithfulness might be bearable, as long as she was willing to provide money. But what if she caught a disease outside and brought it home to infect me? Tell me, which matters more, money or your life? In my opinion, I need someone who will be devoted to me. What's the point of beauty? They'll all become ugly old hags when they grow old. How much better looking can one person really be than another? As for money, as long as we can live a steady life and support a family, That's enough. The male nurse stared at me blankly as he struggled to process the overwhelming amount of information. Mu Chen, are you done talking yet? Lin Wanwan's voice was tight with restrained fury. I'm done. I lay back down on the sofa. Then I let out a theatrical sigh. People say beautiful women are liars. Are beautiful women somehow exempt? You must never judge people by appearance alone. Falling for her means a life of suffering. Saving a life is the greatest good deed of all. I can't stand by and watch this young man jump into a fire pit, but I've said everything I can. If he's still foolish enough to do it, there's nothing I can do. Everyone has their own fate. Lin Wanwan stared at me with bloodshot eyes. Her fury had risen to her throat, ready to erupt the moment she opened her mouth. What do you mean? Falling for her means suffering. Maybe she really had hurt me before her rebirth. But what had she done wrong after being reborn? Lin Wanwan felt completely innocent and deeply aggrieved. But in my eyes, whether before or after her rebirth, she was still the same person. The woman I hated more than anyone. Therefore, a dead knot had formed between us. Her hope of improving our marriage was practically impossible. No one had ever told the nurse such things, not even his parents. The shock was easy to imagine. In his still naive mind, he still dreamed of a perfect woman, choosing him above everyone else, so they could live happily ever after. I intended to shatter that fantasy and bring him back to reality as soon as possible. There aren't that many perfect women in reality. Even if there were, they wouldn't necessarily bring happiness. Sir, my surname is Mu. My given name is Chen. I replied with a faint smile. Mr. Mu, thank you for telling me all this. The male nurse was very shy. He didn't know how to respond. He just gave me a silly smile. I nodded in satisfaction. Don't mention it. Go ahead and change my wife's dressing. Just remember to be gentle. If you hurt her wound, and it affects her ability to find a man later, that would be bad. After hearing my words, the male nurse's eyes immediately turned cold. He lowered his head and glared at her with a hostile expression. Mr. Mu, rest assured, I am very professional. I will be extremely gentle. Lin Wanwan's expression instantly darkened. A frightening aura radiated from her. She tried to intimidate the male nurse, so he wouldn't dare act recklessly. Unfortunately, no man can stand a cheater. When faced with one, even the gentlest man can turn fierce. So, although he was frightened at that moment, he changed the dressing much more roughly. I couldn't tell whether he was acting out of spite or simply out of a woman's pride. Lin Wanwan didn't make a sound. If we hadn't seen her brows tightly furrowed, we might really have thought she wasn't in pain. All done. The nurse threw the old gauze into the trash. Be careful not to get the wound wet. Rehabilitation will begin this afternoon. Lin Wanwan remained silent, her face dark. The male nurse let out a cold laugh and strode out of the room. When he reached the door, he suddenly stopped. He smiled and waved at me. I waved back politely, with a gratified smile, all because of my advice. His admiration for Lin Wanwan had turned to disgust. I had pulled him back from the edge of an abyss. I felt an immense sense of accomplishment. The male nurse left and closed the door. The sound of the closing door made Lin Wanwan's taut nerves snap completely. Mu Chen, come here right now. Her voice sounded unnervingly calm. I'm not going. Anyone who went over at a time like this would be an idiot. The veins on Lin Wanwan's forehead throbbed relentlessly. I'm not angry with you. Come here at once. I have something to tell you. Can't you say it from there? I can't let anyone else hear it. Is anyone else even here? I seriously wondered whether anger had made her stupid. Even if it hadn't, she was so furious that she'd lost all reason. I said come here. So come here now. Lin Wanwan finally lost control completely and snarled through clenched teeth. I sat up on the sofa and grabbed the banana from the fruit bowl. With a cold laugh, I retorted, I'm not coming over. Fine. You're really something. Lin Wanwan glared at me viciously. You just wait right there. My hands froze as I peeled the banana. I instinctively drew my neck in. Deep down, I was still afraid of her. No one was unafraid of Lin Wanwan. She had been terrifying from childhood onward. Her thoughts were unfathomable and inscrutable. No one could ever figure out what she was thinking. Her temper was bizarre too. Anyone who crossed her met a miserable end. After she entered the business world, her extraordinary business acumen, keen instinct for investment, and swift, ruthless precision made her utterly feared. Remembering how she dealt with her enemies, although I didn't want to admit defeat so easily, I couldn't help softening my attitude. You really don't need to take it to heart. I was only joking with him. You call deliberately slandering me a joke. Lin Wanwan demanded expressionlessly. How did you decide I was slandering you? I absolutely wasn't. Don't falsely accuse me. I planned to play dumb to the very end. Lin Wanwan let out a cold laugh. That nurse obviously has a thing for me. You don't want him constantly bothering me either. I was simply helping myself solve the problem. I can irritate people to death, but I can be just as persuasive when I want to sound nice. After spending so many days with me and hearing my inner thoughts, she had gained a fair understanding of me. I was quick-witted and silver-tongued. I was exceptionally sharp with words. It was nearly impossible to get the better of me in an argument, so she gave up trying to reason with me, turned her head aside, and closed her eyes. Then she spoke as if delivering a sentence. You just wait and see. Wait. We can talk this out. I quickly got up and moved closer. I just have a foul mouth. I'm sure you've experienced that firsthand lately. Why are you still taking it so seriously and getting angry? Wanwan gave me a frosty look. Precisely because I've experienced it firsthand. You've insulted me without the slightest restraint, and I'm not supposed to be angry. What kind of twisted logic is that? Twisted logic? I blinked innocently. Do I? The more she looked at my innocent expression, the hotter her anger burned. I really was incredibly bold. I had the nerve to act smug right in front of her. Please be the bigger person and pretend none of this happened. I plastered my face with an ingratiating smile. I've already humbled myself this much. If you keep pursuing it, you'll be the one acting petty. Given Wanwan's personality and her desire to improve our relationship, now that I had backed down first, she really should have let it go. But today, I had truly infuriated her. Her gaze suddenly sharpened. She reached out to grab my arm. Sister Wanwan, I came to see you. Just as her hand was about to reach me, a clear voice came from the doorway. Wanwan's brows drew together slightly. A trace of displeasure crossed her face, but the smile on my face grew even brighter. I turned and plopped down on the hospital bed, and I looked at Zimo as he approached. Well, this is a rare sight. Young Master Zhou, you haven't visited Wanwan in days, so you finally have time today. I was exceptionally good at getting under people's skin. My very first sentence had already struck a nerve. Young Master Mo. Sister Wanwan doesn't like being called that. His expression turned ugly. And when speaking to others, you should address them more formally. Is that so? I raised my brows in feigned surprise. Thank you for the kind reminder, young Master Zhou. After all, you're older than I am. You certainly know much more than I do. Someone should sew this man's mouth shut. Zimo took several deep breaths before barely regaining his composure. Young Master Mu simply hasn't learned proper manners. He'll improve once he studies them a little more. That was certainly true. I reached over and patted Wanwan's leg. Then I turned to look at her. What can I say? My wife has excellent taste. You really are exceptional. Calling her my wife made me sick, but it would disgust these two even more. Just look at the wonderful expressions on their faces. Zimo naturally couldn't stand hearing it. Wanwan hated hearing it because she knew I didn't mean it at all. Knowing it was all false affection, she could only feel embarrassed and disgusted. Chen, can you keep your mouth shut for a while? Wanwan demanded through clenched teeth. What is it? Are you afraid I'll upset your beloved? Do you want to force me to shut up? I huffed twice, wearing an aggrieved expression. Whatever you say, I'm your husband in name. And on our wedding night, you even. I deliberately left the sentence unfinished, but the coy expression on my face was enough to make them understand what I meant. Both their faces looked as though they were constipated. So, even if you love him in your heart, you still can't be so cruel and heartless to me. Otherwise, you'd be going too far. As I spoke, my eyes reddened. Who was really doing what to whom here? The two of them could only fall silent. I was only human. Naturally, I found the scene awkward too. Neither of them was willing to acknowledge me anymore. Finding it boring, I clicked my tongue. I stood from the hospital bed and made an inviting gesture. You two, go ahead and be lovey-dovey. Just pretend I don't exist. As soon as the words left my mouth, I moved aside and stood there like a sentry. Whether they would actually show affection was another matter. Even if they had wanted to, they couldn't have managed it with me watching them like this. Zimo had never met anyone so difficult to deal with. In the past, any man who tried to approach Wanwan had been easily discouraged by him. He knew he'd finally met a real opponent. If he wanted to defeat me, he absolutely couldn't rush. But I was simply too good at provoking people, and far too skilled at hitting their sore spots. So, he stared hard at me for a long while, before finally speaking. Young Master Mo, since you know that we love each other, could you show us some mercy and let us be together? Zimo raised an eyebrow. That's exactly what I mean. But that's not something you should be asking me. I reached over and patted the soft hospital bed. All it takes is one word from Sister Wanwan, and I'll immediately set you to free. Zimo's eyes suddenly lit up. He looked eagerly at Wanwan. Even though she'd been cold to him throughout this period, and her attitude toward me had been unusual, he still believed that she loved him. How could someone love a person for so many years, and then give up so easily? She would surely ask for a divorce, and then they could compete on equal terms. Who wants to compete with you? Wanwan and I were childhood sweethearts. Who says you two are childhood sweethearts? I let out a cold laugh, cutting him off. Zimo, I can make this sound even uglier. Would you like to hear it? Zimo's expression was hideous. He remained silent. I suddenly changed my expression, leaving him unable to guess what I was thinking. Your surname is Zhou. Let me think. Which major corporation bears the Zhou name? I lightly tapped my chin with one finger, pretending to be deep in thought. There really does seem to be one, but as I recall, President Zhou has only one son. So tell me, young master, who is always so proud. Which family do you actually belong to? His expression was so awful that words could hardly describe it. His fingers kept twitching ever so slightly. He fixed me with an icy stare. What exactly are you trying to say? You're merely a student sponsored by the Lin family, a poor boy from some remote mountain village. After I finished saying this, I felt as though I'd finally released everything weighing on me. Zimo's face instantly turned deathly pale. Both his hands began to tremble violently. He forced a cold smile. You're talking complete nonsense. Wanwan. Don't believe him. He's just jealous of how close we are. I refuted him without mercy. Whether I'm talking nonsense or not, all you have to do is check the Lin family's sponsorship records. Wouldn't the truth then be obvious? Lin Wanwan's expression turned extremely grim. She was an exceptionally shrewd businesswoman. How could she fail to see his guilty conscience? She took a deep breath and spoke coldly. Zimo. Tell me the truth. Is what he said true? Zimo's legs nearly gave out in fright. His eyes darted about, and he didn't dare look at her. It's not like that, Wanwan. My feelings for you are genuine. He's deliberately trying to drive us apart. In a panic, he reached for Lin Wanwan's hand, but she shook him off without mercy. Lin Wanwan's eyes held a bone-chilling coldness. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. Get out. I don't want to see you. Seeing how heartless Lin Wanwan was, the mask Zimo had been wearing completely shattered. He roared, his face twisted with rage. You rich people always look down on everyone from your lofty positions. Why should I have to grovel before you? Before he could continue his tirade, the bodyguards rushed in from outside. They forcibly dragged him out of the hospital room. Silence once again filled the hospital room. Lin Wanwan looked as though all her strength had been drained. She leaned against the hospital bed, utterly dejected. She turned to look at me, who had been watching the whole spectacle from the sidelines. Deep regret flashed in her eyes. You knew his true nature all along. I calmly peeled an orange. Yes, I saw through him long ago. You simply never believed me. So, did you enjoy the show? Lin Wanwan's eyes instantly reddened. Chen, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can we not get divorced? I'll make it up to you. I stood and dusted off my hands. Then I took the prepared documents from my bag and gently placed them on her hospital bed. It's all too late. This is the divorce agreement I've already signed. From now on, we'll go our separate ways. Rest and recover. I'm leaving. I didn't give her another glance. I turned and left the hospital room without hesitation. Her muffled sobs echoed behind me, but my heart remained utterly unmoved. When I walked out of that oppressive hospital, the sunlight outside was warm and radiant. A familiar car was parked by the roadside. Xubai opened the car door and waved to me. Big brother, we're here to take you home. Xiuzhen and Mulihang were sitting inside. Their faces were filled with affectionate smiles. I strode toward them, leaving that painful past behind. My happy life was only